aboard. This is One More, please. So how was your drive from San Antonio?
It was good. It's pretty cold and rainy out there, so that was a whole thing. There's always traffic, and I drive up here a lot, as you know, for Austin FC games, and so I'm kind of used to it. I actually kind of enjoy it. A lot of times I'm not listening to anything, not music, not podcasts, because I just really enjoy the time to think and not have to do anything because I'm busy all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very unique to Katie Goodman right there, because I know Richie and I were like huge on podcasts.
Yeah.
That's kind of what got us into this game.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes if I'm like, okay, I need to like know something about what I'm about to do, like sometimes I'll listen to like an Austin FC podcast or like USMNT podcast, like The Athletic. I really like things like that.
There's so much content. For the most part,
I'm just like, my brain is going 100 miles per hour all the time, that I prefer to digest things in smaller bits. Like, okay, I need to look specifically for this information online really quick somewhere or whatever. You know, it's hard to like actually find the time to just like and when I do, I'm like, I want to just turn this thing off, turn that bad boy off.
So working in the media, I feel like there's just so much content to consume. Even as a person, I don't really work in the media per se, but how do you manage all that information, all that stuff?
Well, it's kind of like in one ear, out the other kind of situation sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Like when it comes to soccer, like Austin FC and SAFC, the good thing is like, you know, there's a history with them. And so like as long as you're around it and you're on Twitter, you're usually up to date on what's happening. I think for me, it's mostly being present during the game. Like I'm not one of those people that likes to have a beer and chat about the game. I like to just be zeroed in, watching what's happening, what the breakdowns are. That's the kind of person I am. But like with everything else I do, you know, it's a lot. And a lot of times I can only just brush the surface. And it's funny because I actually am writing this essay about this very thing for my master's class today.
Oh, it's due today.
Yeah, and
she'll get it in time.
May or may not get that today.
We're gonna help Katie out. We're all gonna hop in the Google Doc.
Yes. So this will be our testimony. This will be the essay. Actually,
we'll assemble the crew. Jorge, you better wake up. You're next.
Everyone assemble.
Hernan, Chris Bills.
No, but I read this book. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport.
Oh, and I've heard of it.
Yeah, and it's really good. And it talks about, you know, all of these people who are highly productive and doing big things. And it's because they set aside this big chunk of time to work on things. Me personally, I don't have big chunks of time. I have little chunks of time. And there's this thing called attention residue where, like, you're starting on one task and you kind of get through it. But if you have another one to come or if you have one right before that, like, your attention is way more scattered. So it talks about, like, you know, how so many people are in that situation. Like CEOs, for example, there's no way for them to do deep work. You know, society in general doesn't really foster deep work. And as a host, you also, you know, how deep can you go on a podcast or like, especially if it's live, you only have minutes to blurt out whatever you need to blurt out. You don't have a whole, you know, soliloquy to go off of, you know, and just share all of the deepest, darkest things. So what I was trying to say in my paper is, like, in the sports industry and with what I do, like, I don't necessarily need that deep work, but there are some things that do take a hit, like your creativity, you know? So, like, I'm so busy all the time firing my analytical brain that, like, by the time I get a chance to, you know, I guess, sit down with someone and say, hey, okay, well, what's next? And, you know, let's collaborate together and do something fun and cool. Like, I'm struggling to, like, come up with something. And normally that's, like, my strong suit. I'm just, like, the thing I'm really good at is just, like, creative collaborations and marketing and whatnot. I have a PR background. That's what I used to do. And so that's usually how I know, okay, I need to, like, pump the brakes a little bit, like, find some time to carve out. But right now, it's end of semester. U.S. men's national team is about to play, so there's no slowing down for me until at least the World Cup is over.
Until then we have, you know, like Champions League back right after that. So
there's
it's
no break.
a long So I was thinking earlier, I'm like, you know what? I'm probably just not gonna think of Thanksgiving as a break time because we have 2 big games that weekend. Before any we go any further, as you guys see, we are honored to have Katie Goodman in our studio.
The Katie Goodman.
Oh.
Man, she has done some, I would say, like, her resume, if you guys don't know her, but she literally just finished covering the USL season for us, San Antonio FC. Sorry about that. And
You almost screwed
I'm
up.
like,
I
that's
know,
me.
right?
That's me.
And congratulations on the championship they won.
San Antonio FC.
They're the
champions.
champions.
The USL.
Champions.
2022.
Not only champions, but like they've just done so much.
Talk to us about
Beat
that.
Austin.
Oh,
You know,
I
which
know,
is
that's-
huge. I know, and I know, and that like here's the lucky thing for me. Like I'm like, okay, Austin's my MLS team, SAFC is my USL team. But if SAFC ever gets into MLS, I'm like, dang, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
Because I really love both these teams. They both have such a unique and special character. But you know, for San Antonio FC, what they did, winning that final, was it made history not only for the city but for the USL. They were the only team to finish and the #1 seed overall, and to also take the title. And that has not happened in history. They were one of the first teams to just have 5 trophies. Let me see. I had to write it down because it's a lot. They have Copa Tejas, Copa Shield. They're the regular season champs, so they got a trophy for that. Western Conference champions, the USL champions, and I'm sure I'm missing something else. But I don't know. They made it to the second round of the the U.S. Open Cup. There's just so many things, so many statistics I could just fire off. I mean, first time in history they sold out the stadium in minutes. Like not only sold out the stadium, but sold it out in minutes. So like they did so many huge things, and they had a lot of really quality players. And when you look at a team like that who has all of these huge accolades in one season, as a player you have to think, can that happen again next season? Come on, 5 trophies.
It built a
like
precedent.
Yeah, but it's also like knowing that you're never going to be in that moment ever again, possibly.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Yeah.
while you have it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, San Antonio's used to championships, so with the Spurs.
Yes.
I was actually gonna say that they're a championship city. I mean, the team that they win championships pretty often.
Right.
So, but also the San Antonio FC, they're owned by the Spurs, right?
Yep. They're owned by Spurs. So it was another big thing for the city to bring home another championship trophy.
Wow.
Like that wasn't just basketball, and it was soccer. And you have to hand it to Alan Marcina, because he's been head coach Alan Marcina. He's been at it since 2020, and you can see like where he started versus where he has ended up. They also had a great season last season. They had to go through a pandemic. This man knows how to recruit people like nobody's business, and he doesn't give a damn about what it looks like when he does win. Like his process and their process is very unique to them and their team. It's not like, oh, we're going to, play possession and, try to split the seams and do this and do that. Like they're one of the teams in the league with the fewest passes. Like that's another historical record they set for the USL. I think in one game, I'm going to mess up this number, but it was something around like 98 passes in one game, which is like the fewest passes any USL team has ever had. And it's because they're really direct, great with 1v1s, dribbling, just a really unsuspecting
98
team.
passes in a game.
Yeah, it was
something like that.
Something around that ballpark.
That's unheard of.
Yeah. And
Well,
so
in
it's
today's
just,
soccer.
and it's just like Austin FC. A lot of people talked crap about them.
It's like 300 passes sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you're a possession team, if that's like your thing. So that's why like all the statistics, when you look at all of these matchups that they've won, I think a lot of people didn't give them credit because they just didn't realize how direct of a team they were. They're just looking at, they outpossessed them, or they had more corners or more this. And it's like, well, they are a full 11 defending, like 100%.
Put some respect on
They
San
do,
Antonio
they do
FC.
the estilo Cholo Simeone. With, like in Spanish, they say con el cuchillo entre los dientes, with a knife in their teeth, just, all right, just counterpunching and whatnot.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But
That's awesome. So you've talked about the style of play a little bit, and one thing you mentioned is the culture of San Antonio in relation to the soccer team and how they've all kind of started to back this team. Can you talk to us a little bit more of what that's like? Because we're familiar with the culture here at Q2 and Austin FC, but what makes San Antonio different of a soccer city?
I feel like San Antonio fans in general are diehards. Like if you look at you know, the way they support the Spurs, whether they're winning or losing, they are die-hard fans. I mean, people will cry if they see Ginobili in the street, you know, and it's like they're kind of carrying, they start like praying to him, and they're like, hey, I get it.
That's how I am with
I get
Fagundes.
it. Yeah,
That I see Fagundes and I'm like, are you true?
right. Oh, man. I had one moment where we did an interview with Driussi, and I had to do it in Spanish because he just won't do it in English. And I just remember being like, trying to get the words out of my, and they're not coming. And I was like, and then it was just like such an awkward question. He kind of giggled, and then he answered what I was trying to say, but it was funny. Yeah, no, but as far as like the fans in San Antonio go, they are amazing. Like they have, like, you have the Crocketeers, you have a couple of other like supporters groups that are there every single game, tailgating, pregame. They're there in the bunker, raising hell, like popping off smoke bombs, hitting drums, cheering. Like, I feel like if I cheered as much as they did, I'd have an asthma attack, like, immediately. I'm like, where does that power from your lungs come from? Like, so no, it's amazing. And a lot of the players have talked about that in, like, especially recent press conferences, and, you know, just like the benefit of playing this final at home, and how like big of a role the fans play. And another thing that was really interesting that Mitch Tainer said was how he knows the fans are intelligent soccer people. He's like, they know exactly when to cheer. They know what they're cheering about. Like, and it's so helpful to know that you have fans that understand, you know, even if nothing big is happening in the game, when they need to rally, you know, to kind of help the team rally. And that's what San Antonio does. And, you know, other, you know, than that, I really, truly feel like just San Antonio in a nutshell, diehard fans. And that's, you know, aside from San Antonio FC being amazing and truly deserving an MLS bid, like, I think it's great that, you know, Austin got a team and that they've done so well. But I do think San Antonio is also deserving. And talk about the rivalry, man. Like,
that's one thing that we were thinking. Like,
that would be a true derby.
Yeah.
Like right down I-35.
Yeah, because Dallas fans are soft. But San Antonio fans, they go
Frisco.
for the jugular. Yeah, Frisco, whatever. Tomato. But, yeah, San Antonio fans are ruthless.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like
they'll fight
that.
over a taco, man. You know? I don't know.
I can imagine. I mean, Austin FC definitely didn't respect them when in their first matchup.
Yeah,
and they paid the
we
price
for
for
sure.
it. We paid
Like,
the price for it.
I feel like that game we came in too, like, just overly confident. Not like not confident. We're like, you know what, these guys are good. We're more like, like they were trying to do stuff that they don't normally do against like LAFC or Galaxy. Yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, just keep it simple and pass. And
right. They're probably thinking of it like treating it like an exhibition game, not like an Open Cup game, and you know, just trying to find, you know, different lineups and how those work. And I think that Kip Keller in there who made some bigger mistakes at the time.
Kip Keller.
Like I said, I don't think I've seen him play since then.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So there's like that, but also like they had Driussi in there at times. They ended up rotating in all of like their core team at some point, and San Antonio still held them down. And then you look at the game against Houston Dynamo that fought like the next Open Cup game, and it's like sucks because I think Dynamo scored in like the 87th minute or something. And San Antonio was holding them to it the whole time. Like, they were just killing it. And I don't know. It was one that kind of slipped out of their fingertips. I think they could have maybe gone a little further if they had won that one. So.
But no, I just imagine if San Antonio gets an MLS team, it'll be good. I think it would just be something that you get a team against each other that's like an hour away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you have in England, and that's what you have in Spain.
And NYCFC and the Red Bulls, like, how come they can have one, but we can't?
Yeah. No, definitely. I think it would just add to the beautiful ecosystem of football, of soccer here in Texas. I think Texas has always been a hotbed, or for the longest time has been a hotbed of soccer for so long. And what Austin FC has done over the past 2 seasons has been incredible. What San Antonio FC just did is incredible. Like, I think nationally, people have to be looking at Texas like a hotbed of soccer, and the potential that could happen behind the city of San Antonio, and having its own like major team would be incredible.
And how different both clubs are at the end of the day, like,
for sure.
Like even like in the style of play, like you were saying, they're more of a, you know, they don't like possession. they'll let you play with the ball, but they're more direct, and we're a little more. Let's just roll around with it. Let's just pass it side to side.
Yeah.
Let's make it look pretty. Yeah.
Yep.
But now as we move forward into the conversation, and the star of this episode is Katie. Katie, we want to get to know more about you, and we want our audience to know more about who Katie is outside of a microphone. And let's just first talk with where are you originally from, and how was your environment like growing up?
Yeah, so I'm from San Antonio, Texas. Born and raised there, and I'm the youngest of 6. So I have 4 sisters and a brother. My parents are much older. Well, my mom passed away in 2018, but she had me when I was 45, and now my dad is 78. So it's been an interesting little journey for me. I am really lucky that I have a giant family, and we all can come together in times of sadness and support each other. And it also means there's 500 birthdays all the time because everyone has kids, and then holidays, there's 20 of us. And so, so cooking is a huge thing in our family. My sister actually played at Mississippi State. Okay. And so she was 13 years older than me. So I remember being a little kid at her soccer games and, watching her play and really looking up to her. Mm-hmm. And so I actually started playing at an even younger age than she did because of that. So I started at 4. Mm-hmm. And then when it came time for me to go to school, I had looked at a bunch of different schools, but I ended up settling with Mississippi State just because I wanted to do D1. Mm-hmm. I felt like SEC was a great conference, especially at the time for soccer. Mm-hmm. And, it was just a really good place to grow up. It was really chill, and I felt taught me some manners and, how to be professional, which I was not, and even borderline still not. But so it was cool. And but other than that, my family, my upbringing, everything was, I feel pretty normal, just a little bit of chaos here and there just because there's so many of us and there's always something happening
it's a big family.
Going on.
Yeah. Family of 7 is 6 man.
Yes. Yeah, 6 kids.
6 kids.
Dogs always, 2 parents, just it's a lot. Yeah. And my nieces, I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. So my 2 oldest sisters, my oldest sister has 5 kids older than me. So I'm an aunt to 5 people older than me, and then they have kids, so I'm a great aunt. But I was a great aunt when I was in my mid-20s, so that was weird. I was just nobody asked me about my family tree because we're going to be here for 5 hours if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah. So it seems like your family is still very close-knit.
Yes, that's good. I'm very close with my family. I really especially being around my dad. I lost my mom in 2018.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, and my this isn't something that I share often, but my dad has Alzheimer's, so that's another reason why I stay close by him to just keep tabs on him and make sure everything's okay, and medications are taken properly and whatever. And so the good thing is that I do have a really tight-knit family, so whenever things happen, we all just kind of stick together and we band together, even if we want to punch each other at times. We get through it, because that's just what you do, I guess, for us at least. So,
that's good.
Yeah.
And then say when it came up to the holidays, I know we're gearing towards Thanksgiving and then Christmas. How was that for you guys? I mean, the whole eating, having big meals and then gift wrapping. Was it a white elephant process, or was it what was another type of giving, gift giving?
Yeah.
How was that for you guys?
Well, now it's white elephant because there's so many children and children have children, and you're geez, they just keep. You sit on a toilet seat and this family gets pregnant, damn, there's another kid? Okay, right, got it. And then, so usually there's 20-ish people at my family celebrations. This Thanksgiving's gonna be a little different. A lot of people have to work or have other obligations, so it's just gonna be a small thing. But, when my mom was around, she was a little elf in Santa's shop. She was sewing stuff and just getting all that holiday cheer and magic going. And so when she passed away, we decided to do the opposite and, say, F it. We're wearing PJs to Christmas. We're not going hard in the paint. We'll bring food because you know what we like to eat. But like for the most part, we're gonna do white elephant. We're gonna play a game. It's none of this like a gift for you and you and you. It's like we're broke and that's it. We're just gonna own that. That's just what we do now. It's a new tradition because you'll never get back what you had with someone like that.
Yeah, things change, and it's so precious the time we have here and the people that we have and the times that we share when we're together in a place. This will be the first holiday season and Christmas for me without my grandmother, who passed away in May, and her birthday was on Christmas, so it was like her birthday and a big celebration with her, and she loved like a big celebration with a lot of food, a lot of music, a lot of dance. So this one's gonna be different. It's gonna hit a lot different too. So.
First one is the hardest, man.
Yeah, so definitely going to be there for my mom and for just all my family and just try to make the best out of it and remember all the positive things and, like, just who she was. She was someone who loved the holidays, so I would feel bad if, like, we didn't all come together and make it the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We kind of feel the same. Like, there was a point in time where we were kind of like, why even try? And like, we should just all do our own thing. And we were like, well, we can like half try. We can do the PJs and pretend we don't care, but actually care. And
then at the end, the moment gets there, and you're actually let's do Christmas carols for
or take shots or
there we go.
Like something.
Christmas carols with shots.
We never did that, but the past couple of Christmases, I have personally taken shots, so that was interesting. Yeah,
you like shot for everything.
Shot for
speaking about Thanksgiving, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Oh man, so I have a lot of food allergies.
Oh damn, yeah.
So
special eater over here, flower child.
Jeez, I know they got me the best food ever. Normally people are like, here's a bunch of like nasty bar food, and they're like, what, we're going to eat. I was like, okay, I'm just going to tell you guys, I have food allergies. And so the first thing they pop up with is flower child. And I'm like, oh, this is like bougie. Like, dang. Like, wow. Like,
see,
we're soup and vegan Mother Earth bowls.
There we go. We're, what's it called? We're very, we like to be versatile. We like to switch it up here and there. Like if it was up to me, my choice, I would have brought like 3 pounds of carnitas de güero and gone to town with that.
Dude, I wish I could. I seriously, like this is not by choice. Like, some people are like, oh, you're vegan. I'm like, not quite. I've always had an egg allergy my whole life, so that's a thing. But I developed a chicken and a beef allergy later in life, like after college. Yeah, and I'm like, you mean to tell me I can't have chicken nuggets ever again? Like,
hell no.
Yeah, I was so pissed, man. And I was sick for a really long time, and they couldn't figure out what the problem was. And then they finally did like a skin panel, like a food panel test. And they're like, oh, just stop eating chicken and beef. And I was like, you guys got to be shitting me. But it worked. It worked, and I feel fine. And so now I just eat fish. Turkey makes me feel weird. Ham, too. So everything else is, I'm pretty much pescatarian. I still eat cheese. But, yeah, I've got to be careful with things, especially the egg stuff that's really bad. So Thanksgiving, I end up making like pretty much my own little meal and then bringing it to Thanksgiving.
Oh, dang.
So I have like tofurkey.
Tofurkey?
Yeah, tofurkey. I know. Wow. It sounds like a bad word, but they have that at
what'd you call me?
What the tofurkey did you just say to me? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I will say whenever like I was younger, there weren't a ton of options like for eggless stuff, so that was awkward. But like when I first started having to eat like meatless and fish only, that was also weird. Not a ton of options, but luckily Whole Foods exists and it makes it easy on me. So
yeah, I would say if there's one thing, like I think Whole Foods is expensive, but if there's one thing that they're doing right is they're catering to everyone as much as they can.
They have a wide range, the widest range of food options that I've seen in any grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah, expensive as fuck, but I mean it's all good.
I only go there for specialty items like tofurkey and.
So for the most part, you're pescatarian or vegan?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pescatarian, and even then, I don't eat fish a ton just because it like after a while it's like mercury poisoning. But it's whatever. Yeah. I eat what I eat. And a lot of legumes and quinoa and the thing is, like, whenever you can't eat like a normal diet, you have to vary it as much as you can,
Yeah.
so that like the ecosystem in your gut is like normal,
Right,
which is
right.
hard when you're like working 24/7.
Yeah.
You know,
Gut
So,
microbiome.
Yeah,
man.
there you
gotta
go.
Take care of it.
Yeah,
Gotta
yeah.
Take care of it,
That's
Richie.
what's up, man.
Hey,
What
man.
about, what about you, Richie? What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Stuffing, bro.
Stuffing?
With cranberry. My mom makes the best stuffing with cranberry that's out there. So I just
Damn, dude.
she
Not a
usually
fan of
gives me like a pan of it, but I don't know what she does and how she makes it. I've seen her make it and I tried to make it once, but it's just like it's a very good dish that like a little crunchy, but just enough where it's still moist after a couple of days.
When your mom makes food, does she measure stuff, or is she just like?
Hombre.
I think that's like a
That's
like
what
a
my
mom
mom
thing.
used to
That's a
do.
mom thing,
Like
dude.
she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, she doesn't.
None of us could figure out her freaking recipes when she passed, because she's like, it's like a cup, but we're like, no, it's that random mug in the cabinet
From the
That's
1980s coffee that,
cup.
you know,
yeah, and
yeah.
it's like, that's not an actual cup, that's like 2 cups, you know.
Yeah, no,
Same.
that and what else? I think just stuffing. I don't know why, but I've always liked stuffing just because you can mix. I like mixing my bowls. Like, you put it in there, whatever it is, it turns into like a mosh pit, and let's go.
Mosh pit. Let's go.
And that's
Yeah.
there we go.
Nah,
it.
dude. Thanksgiving food. I've always loved Thanksgiving just because it's like less pressure than Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I feel like the older you get, you're like thinking about, I gotta get gifts for everybody. But Thanksgiving is like we're all gonna come together and just eat
Right.
and be thankful for whatever is going on in our lives.
Yeah.
But my favorite dish has always been like macaroni and cheese.
Oh.
But it's gotta be like a southern style macaroni and cheese,
Like this
The big,
from
thick
scratch.
noodles.
the
kinda
thick
thing.
noodles,
Yeah.
like the little broiled crust with like nice spices and seasonings to it. And recently, like I think last Thanksgiving we made a smoked turkey. Best turkey I've ever had because it's just juicy, man. Like and the smokiness really comes out. I made it with my brother-in-law.
Alexis.
Yeah, he's really
Saludos.
into smoking meats and stuff. But man, that's so different. I never heard of like having to vary your Thanksgiving options like that with
Yeah.
with your food conditions.
I will say there's this one brand of rolls that I can eat, and they're like 99 cents, the shittiest rolls on the market, but I love them. And I'm
What
like,
do you-
I think it's because I could just eat them. Like
Is it the
bread,
Hawaiian rolls or
carbs.
no?
They're like those, but they're not Hawaiian because
okay.
Hawaiian has egg in them. But
Oh,
they're the
yeah.
HEB brand, like, I don't
The
know, man.
Hillcroft.
It's like you can't reheat them because then they turn into like a rock kind of thing. You just
yeah.
get your one and done. But
The bolillos.
El bolillo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think bolillo has egg.
yeah,
Oh,
the
it does?
Bolillo's like this, and they have cheese inside them, or no?
No, they're kind of like a French bread, but they're a little more crunchier on the outside.
Oh.
Well, it just depends from where.
But they're super cheap.
they're
Like,
super cheap. They're
always
like
the
80
cheapest
cents
bread.
each.
Yeah.
But they're big, like big for a sandwich.
Yeah,
Well-
no, these are like the little. They look like the Hawaiian rolls pack, but they're like HEB. I don't know. I swear by them.
We'll have to find it.
Yes, I will. I'll post a photo and
HEB.
tag you guys on Instagram.
For sure. Let
There
us
we
know.
go.
HEB shout out.
Yeah.
Hey, so we kind of went off the rails with
Yeah.
Thanksgiving
That's
stuff.
fine.
Let's-
Hey, you know what? This Otra, por favor. This is
That's-
what we do.
that's how we
Man,
roll in here,
food's
but-
way to my heart.
rolling back into Mississippi State
Yeah.
University. You went there. You played soccer there. What was your position?
I was an outside back and also
back.
like a tag player. So they used to call me the little ankle biter because I was
Oh.
small like a chihuahua, but like super aggressive. So they're like, "You're like a little ankle biter out there." I'm like, yeah, get out of my way. So yeah. So that was the whole thing, and so outside back, left and right, and then like if there was a player that they were like, "We need you to shut her down," they would just put me on her, and that was the worst. Like,
Ooh,
freaking hate it when people do that because I'm like, now I'm not playing my game. I'm just playing tag. Like, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. It rarely worked. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell the coach no because minutes, I'm like, do whatever. If you want me to do fucking jumping jacks in a hot dog suit, sign me up. But
I wish
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo had that attitude with Man U, but that's another
right,
story.
that's a whole nother ball game.
But yeah, that's cool. Did you have any players that or sports figures that you admired or looked up to or tried to emulate their game?
Yeah, Manu Ginobili. And I know that sounds
that's a
crazy.
great
being-
choice.
With him being a basketball player.
Yeah,
but,
well-
it's a space game. It's essentially small-sided soccer. That's how I describe basketball. I'm like, I only like it because it's like soccer. But
with hands.
yeah, but soccer with hands, yeah.
But and you can use your feet.
Yeah, right. Well, Ginobili is amazing because he's like controlled chaos a little bit. You know, he has this like really unorthodox style of play. And I think prior to him coming into the NBA, you just saw a lot of like pretty basketball, and like, not to say that what he does isn't pretty, it's just different, you know? And I remember as a young player feeling like, you know, especially growing up in San Antonio, the resources aren't the same as in other hot spots like Dallas, Houston, whatever. And like, you know, so you go and you play these big teams and you're like, damn, how are they all so good? Like, everybody's good. And I just remember being like, I'm good, but I don't look like the way that they play. And I just remember feeling different. And then whenever growing up, like, I started watching Ginobili play, I just remember being like, oh my God, he's playing at a professional level. Everybody loves him. He's doing great. And he's making these really unorthodox layups and like weird form, and like everybody loves it. And I'm like, this makes me feel so much better about what I'm doing. And I felt like I was just able to like lean into that. I run really weird, and like a lot of people don't know that. My brother used to call me Seabiscuit. Yeah, so let's go Seabiscuit, because I run hunched over.
It's like that's a big brother thing to say.
100%. Except it caught on, so then it was like an everybody says it kind of thing. And I was like, you're the worst.
But I mean, if you look at it, like, say the game goes and it's like going south, and you're warming up, and they see you getting ready, you start getting that Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
Vamos, Seabiscuit. Los un golazo, hoy hay que ganar.
We're gonna need to record that so I can just
Oh,
listen to
oh,
it
we
when I need
record
to
it.
pump up
Sure.
next time.
That'll
Yeah.
be her gym music,
Yes.
her little
Music.
motivation
Yeah.
stuff right there.
Nice.
Like,
But no, that's
Manu Ginobili, like, I loved
Yeah.
watching him play growing up. But man, did he give me some heartache.
Because you were Rockets.
I'm born and raised in Houston, man. So I pulled for the Rockets.
Sorry to hear about that.
Unfortunately, we've been on the losing end of things a lot against the San Antonio Spurs, much to the delight of one of our loyal listeners, Ram Sizzle. His screensaver, I think, on his Twitter is actually the block of Manu Ginobili over James Harden. And he likes to send that to me occasionally just to hurt me a little bit.
Dude.
But it's banter.
Hey, it's worse. I'm a Lakers fan, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch much basketball, but from what I heard is Manu is just because maybe Argentino, you know, they play passionately different. Like, if the ball's going there, literally like in that corner, and you need to get to it, he's gonna find a way to get to it.
Yeah.
So I think
right.
he has that.
Yeah, you're right. The heart,
Scrappy.
scrappy. That's what I like. And honestly, that's what got me through college. And that's what has got me through everything in my life. Just like that mentality of like, it's okay to be an underdog. And sometimes it actually works better when you're an underdog, honestly. Like, you have something to catch. You don't have this target on your back. And like, you can be a little more unsuspecting. And I don't know. I've never thought it was a bad thing. But yeah, Ginobili, and then Mia Hamm. She was a big one. Brandy Chastain. Those are all Carly Lloyd. Those are all kind of like the players that I looked up to.
Yeah, your goats.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Did you like catch any of the Houston Dash games?
I did.
Yeah.
In fact, a girl that I played with at Mississippi State, Sarah Loudon, she was their interim head coach for a bit, and then I think she went back to being their assistant coach. But she did such a good job. Poor thing was not ready for it or wanting that, but she's like, all right, I'm here and we're doing it. And she did great, you know, and it's just cool to see, like, you know, how we have progressed since that time, since Mississippi State, like how I'm still in the soccer scene, she's in the soccer scene, just in different ways. And it's kind of funny when you look back at it, because like thinking about like transporting myself back to that time, me on the squad, like who would have thought like you were going to do this and then you're going to do that? Like, you know, you just don't know until life moves on, and then you're like, no one would have guessed this shit.
It's that Paul Rudd meeting. You're like, look at us.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
We're here.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that transition from you know, going to Mississippi State and then transitioning into that soccer world and media.
Yeah, so it took a long time, if I'm being honest, because I had actually gone to Mississippi State both for the soccer program and mass communications, because in high school I did the morning announcements, and I was like, I'm going to be a news anchor one day. Like,
Good, man. Make it a great day or not.
Good morning,
the choice
John
is
Marshall.
yours.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Like, give this girl the TV.
I would imagine like it was good for you because like just experience of doing the morning announcements. you're in the mic the whole time, and you don't know who you're talking to, but you're talking to someone in general.
Talking
It
to
was
the
terrible.
people.
It's nothing like what I do now. It was so terrible because it was high school, and so like we were reading off a PowerPoint, and then someone would mess up the PowerPoint, and then so it'd be all these like hard jump cuts because we'd all mess up, and like, but it was still fun to be like, oh, that's me on TV, but I suck, but that's me up there, you know, like, and it was just the whole process of learning to shoot and edit and like make a pretty much a PowerPoint, and luckily they gave us all the stuff we had to talk about, but like that's another reason I wanted to go to Mississippi State, because I have a really good communications program and an even better meteorology program, which I don't want to ever have to do meteorology, but I was like, hey, I think that's what I'm going to do, like perfect fit. So I go there. And I was liking it, but I felt like, you know, when you're in entry-level classes, it's just like math and science, and like it's not actually like your core curriculum or anything. And so I think had I been exposed to like some of like the cameras and actually like hands-on stuff a little earlier, I probably would have stuck with it. But also my dad was like, dude, you're never going to make money in communications. Like, he's like, the chances are slim of you making it. Like, you should just do like business or something. So I studied international business and Spanish, and that's what I got my degree in. And after that, I went to work at Citibank in their Latin American division, and I hated it. And then I went to work at Dannon and Evian. They're the same business, and worked as a sales analyst. Hated it. In fact, I got really sick. And I was like a monkey in a cage in a cubicle. Like, I'm not a cube person. I got to be up and moving and talking, like everything I do now. And so from there, it was just a really long journey to like figure out who I was, where I fit in with the world. And then, you know, leaving soccer is an identity crisis in itself, because like you're from the age 4 until I think it was 22, that's all I did. Like my whole life revolved around it at like a high level, you know, like it was a lot to just let go of. And I had back surgery in 2011. So I had to take a medical release. And so I called it quits, went into the work life, hated it, and I ended up quitting my job and becoming a yoga instructor full time, because I was like, look, corporate America. Yeah, like this ain't for me. So I'm gonna be a hippie. I'm gonna do the full.
There we go.
Yeah. Wow. And so anyway, that's what I did, and that was fun, but also doesn't exactly pay the bills. And I felt like I really poured myself into it, got what I needed out of it, and helped a lot of people in the meantime. But then I just felt like this like bigger calling, and I was like, I don't know what it is. I feel like I need to do something different. So I ended up in PR working for the Animal Defense League of Texas, which is a PR firm. And I mean, an animal shelter, not a PR, an animal shelter that also has PR. And so I was their PR manager, development manager, which means I would help with creating events and fundraising, but I would also take the dogs on TV. Okay. And I'd be like, adopt this dog, come to this event. And that's when I was like, fell in love with it. I was like, this is what I should have been doing the whole time. You know, like if I could just have a dog show, damn, I'd be in heaven. You know, like I love animals. Love the whole, like, I felt like when I got in front of the camera, it was like going back to soccer, because it's intense. You got to switch on. You got to know what you're saying. Yeah. It was kind of like game time, go. And I was like, man, I love that adrenaline. Like, that was great. Yeah.
It's interesting that you thought about it that way.
Yeah. Like, well, I was like, why do I like it so much? Like, what is it? Because the only people on the other side of the camera were like old people. Yeah. Like, the only people who even knew I went on TV were like my dad's friends at church, which was like 3 people who could even remember to ask him about it. You know, like,
is that Katie? Is that Katie?
Yeah, like, I think I saw your daughter.
I saw your daughter.
Yeah, that was me.
On the news.
Yeah, the dog girl. Yeah. So it was cool, and I loved it. I loved it so much. And then during that time, my mom passed away, and a lot of things just kind of snowballed and spiraled, and I ended up, you know, having to leave, and I took some time, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And started working at a production company, and that was okay. You know, I felt I definitely was not tapping into my full potential there, but I needed a place to just like chill and like figure it out, and that's what I did there. And I still learned a lot. I learned to shoot and edit and light stuff in a very like
skills of the
not
trade.
Great way though. Like I was like but I learned it, you know, and because stuff like that you have to do over and over and over again. You got to build a muscle with it, you know. You guys know. So I did that there, and I was still pitching to local TV my yoga stuff. So I was now the yoga contributor of like Ken's 5 and KSAT and all of these like stations, and just going on and teaching yoga just to keep the contacts alive. And then once the pandemic hit, I know this is a long story. I'm trying to wrap it up.
Go for it.
Good.
Once the pandemic hit, I got picked up by this PR firm. And I was like, you know what? I need to do something different, literally anything. So I'm going to go back to PR. It's part-time. And I'm going to intern at this this Texas travel show. And so I was helping them as an intern. I was doing part-time at this PR firm. And then the PR firm was like, hey, like, because of COVID, we lost all these clients. So we don't know what to do. Like, sorry, we're going to have to, like, let you go. And I was like, oh, shit. So since then, I've been freelance. And since then, honestly, I think it's a blessing in disguise because it gave me, at that point, I said, what do I do next? And I said, well, I know what I want now. And I will not accept anything other than that. And I'm no longer going to go to a job that isn't aligned with it, meaning nothing back office. I could be working in comms for like an Austin FC or like actually interviewed with Colorado Rapids. But then I realized like I don't want to be the PR manager. Like I want to do, you know, I want to talk about soccer and this is my space, you know? So lucky for me, I decided to go back and start playing semi-pro with the San Antonio Athenians 10 years later when I should not have at all. And I made the team.
Back
in
the scene.
Yeah, I made.
She's like, was the Sea Biscuit is back.
Yeah, with a couple, gimp. She's got a gimp, but she's here and she's trying real hard, Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so I started playing, made travel team, got really involved in that. That's when I got on the UWS, United Women's Soccer podcast. And so I started talking about that a lot. Then from there, I was picked up by the Title League FC podcast, which is an MLS podcast. That's when I started interviewing MLS soccer players. And then it kind of just went from there. That's where the whole MLS and SAFC coverage started because SAFC had some MLS players. I was trying to get interviews with them. And then a little bit of time goes on, and I won runner-up to this Rock the Mic challenge for ESPN San Antonio. So they brought me on as their soccer analyst, and now I co-host a show Saturday mornings called the Saturday Morning Hangover. And that's how I'm able to cover Austin FC and San Antonio FC. Okay. And then also within that time, I know it's long, also within that time, the show I was interning for came back and said, hey, do you want to be one of our hosts for Yellow Texas, which is the travel show? So that's what I do now too. And then also during that time, the Spurs kind of discovered me and they were doing a first ever all-female broadcast. So they said, hey, come on and we'll highlight you and all the things you're doing. And then now I'm getting my master's at UIW and I'm their broadcast GA. I call soccer games for them and for Texas State, for whoever needs someone to call a soccer game. That's what I do.
They'll give a call.
Yeah, so I'm busy, but in the best way possible because I went from not knowing what I wanted to do to being fully immersed in something that I really love to do. And so now I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I'd like to not do 500 things though. I'd like to be able to do like the one thing that pays really well. And so that's kind of like what I'm looking for now, is, that just waiting for that next opportunity. And, but at least at the bare minimum, like the one thing that keeps me grinding and going is one, I'm around the game that I love. I wasn't able to even watch a soccer game after my back surgery in 2011 because I was so bitter. So like going back to the Athenians helped me to kind of accept where I was, and then I retired again after, so much. I messed up my back, then I tried to rehabilitate too fast to get in for the next season, and then I fell and hit my head and had a 3-month concussion and had to call it quits pretty much because there's no way I was going to make it in time for the season. And and so I was like, I shouldn't be doing this anyway. And, things were starting to pick up career-wise, and so I was like, you know what, this is the universe saying, hey, you had your run, you found your acceptance, now you can just go be involved in soccer in a really different way. And so that's where I'm at now. And I'm happy with it.
Like, say, from the first time I heard you, and it was actually the game against Austin FC. I didn't get to go, but, I mean, the universe has it to where, like, I didn't get to go, but I got to see you on the broadcasting. And then one thing that I noticed is just, like, the way you talked about the game and the way you asked questions. Now, for me, it was like, she really knows what she's asking, and she really knows what she's talking about. Yeah. Because it like you came out with like say a way where it made the person feel comfortable, and we're like, you know what? They're not just asking me a generic question. Like, hey, how do you what
are your thoughts about the game?
What are your thoughts about the game? Yeah. Like, say you came in with like something different, and I think you probably got it like everything that you face is just like, say, on TV when you're doing it, you're based on your experience. I feel like when you're there covering a broadcast or covering a season long, you go through all these emotions. Maybe like say in the future, San Antonio FC is gonna go through a really rough patch. So you're gonna, because of everything you're going through, you're gonna be able to assimilate. How can I, get the story from this? So the storytelling, because broadcasting is also a storytelling type of
So true.
industry.
This is so true, and good questions are really important. And I learned that the hard way as well and early on. And, I think for me, I also think about what interests me. And I think about the general person who digests MLS content, like who's going onto the website, who is listening to the press conference. They want to know details, just like I do. I go to the MLS website if I'm trying to figure out what is this player's playing style, what are they good at, what are they bad at, like what is this team good at or bad at. Like I want to talk tactics, and so that's why I like to ask tactical or strategic or game specific questions, which they don't always give you the answer to because like it's part of the game, but it's asking it in a way that they feel safe to kind of disclose some of it without giving too much away. And I actually was joking about this on the striker panel last night, which was hilarious because they asked about Josh Wolf and what it's like to work with him. Right. And I was like, well, he's actually a really funny person for me. Because one of the first questions I asked him was like, why aren't you guys scoring early goals or some shit like that? And he was like, well, no shit, we want to score. Like I don't know, you tell me.
You can see his face.
And so I like died laughing because I'm like, that's the most sarcastic thing. And I was not expecting it from you, but it's hilarious. And then I ended up bumping into him like in the parking lot. And he's like, that was funny, wasn't it? I was like, yeah, it was good, but it kind of established that rapport between us. So now every time I get the mic, he's like, what is she gonna say next? So I try to make it good, but
he has like, I know he has a character, and sometimes he's blunt at what he says or how his expressions are. You can always just see it, like
when
there
he's
goes
like
another
his blood
bullshit
is boiling.
question again. Yeah,
I can tell too.
And he's like, well, but he tries to be like nice about it, and he's like, well, it was a good game. I think the players are doing good. But he's like completely not answering the question they asked him because it's like stupid question.
Yeah. It sometimes it gets to the point where everyone just wants to squeeze their question in, and that's like they're like, I need my bit for social media or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
that's the world we live in now.
Yeah,
a little soundbite.
It is.
Let me get the soundbite. Really.
Yeah, right. Is what it is though, and that's a whole nother thing. Like being in media, like having to be like self-promotional. Like I can't tell you how many things I post. I'm just like, I want to throw up. Posted, like just because it's like I did this thing. I'm like, this is now like my Instagram is looking like a resume more than anything, and I don't know. Sometimes it just makes me want to like slap myself, but I'm also like, well, I'm still working for that dream job. So
there we go.
Yeah.
But like say for example, whenever going back a little bit to the yoga and also the working for the organization as a PR that brings like pets to TB to get them like a home, I guess.
Yeah. Animal Defense League. Yeah.
How was that for you? Because I like dogs, and that's a passion too. So how do you feel? Just like say going in there and then bringing a cute little dog so they can adopt them.
Sometimes it's really cute. Other times it's pure chaos, depending on the dog, And so you're like, that's why you're always really nice to the people who are feeding and grooming them because you want them to set you up with a nice little dog. But there's one time.
You're like, God, this ugly ass dog.
No, ugly isn't even a thing. It's chaotic.
The
Dogs who
dog.
might poop on you or like bark the whole time. Or like there was one I did where the dog was in the box and he jumped out. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. We're only on live TV. He's a jumper, And then there was one time.
We got a jumper.
Yeah. And then there was one time I was in this chair and we were both in these high chairs, but they were swirly. They gave me this like giant, like American staff pit bull mix, and it's like my size, so I'm like, yeah, and then we're gonna, just adopt him. He's great. He's fucking awesome. And
he listens very well. Look, come here.
He's great. And then he hops on me and he's like, and I'm like, but look, that's cute, like that. But I'm also being like manhandled on this stool. So it kept things interesting, but like whenever you're stressed, you can just go to the puppy room and you just sit in the puppy room and you're like, the babies, and you're just like serotonin boost.
Like
it was amazing.
It's like serotonin for sure.
Yeah, it was cool.
Talk to us about your pets. I know you have a couple of dogs that you really love.
I have Maria. She's my firstborn, and she's She is 12. Yeah, she's 12. So she just turned 12 on November 11th. Last year I threw her a birthday party because she was 11 on 11/11. So you got a party,
Wow.
There we
man.
go.
Yeah.
Her birthday just passed up then.
Yeah, it just passed. And she's...
Happy birthday, Maria.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this.
Yeah. She's probably like... She's so sassy, man. I'm like, where'd you get that from? But she's great. She's like been my little ride or die soulmate. She actually had a locker at Mississippi State, which was cool.
Oh, damn.
Nice.
Yeah, she had her own little locker, and we all kind of took turns taking care of her, me and my roommates.
Nice.
And she's just been with me everywhere, to Miami, to here, and then Ricky Roo, I got him at Animal Defense League. He is a miniature poodle mix, and he's a good little boy. He's just like, I've never met a dog who will hug you, like actually like look you in the eye and then give you like a hug and like, you know, like do a little baby noise like, eh. And I'm just like, who needs kids? You can just have Ricky. Like, freaking awesome. Like best of both worlds,
There we
man.
go.
He's a great little cuddle boy. And so, yeah, he's 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like snacks, do they have a particular favorite one each they like?
Not really, because Maria also has dietary issues.
Hey, they say, dogs like
Yeah.
emulate their owners, so
right.
dang.
But I don't think she likes that. I have to like give her the right stuff. She's like, man, I want to like go out hard in the paint. Like, give me all the worst stuff, Mom. I don't care if I'm throwing up for days. She'll eat it. She will literally do it to herself. So, anyways, I'm the bad guy and have to give her like stuff like that. But I mean, she'll get like a little biscuit here and there. Ricky, he's a garbage disposal. That dog can eat. He's the opposite. He can like literally eat an entire trash can and be fine, like no problems. So
He's like, hey, it's all part of the immune system.
yeah, seriously, yeah. He's just total opposite of Maria.
There you go. And now, like, say when you were doing yoga instructor, you were a yoga instructor on TV. Yoga is, it could be a thing that a session can be an hour. But yours, how long was like each time you will be on like in front of the camera?
Oh, on camera, they only give you like 5-ish minutes. So it was like a very sped up version of, it's like yoga for kids or yoga for athletes or yoga for whatever. It was not like a full class.
It's like a mini session.
Yeah, it's like
just to get some highlights and some tips and some things you could do at home.
Exactly. It's
right?
content. And that's what a lot of people don't realize about these local news stations is they just need content, and they love it when people bring them like creative stuff. And so that's how I was able to like just get in there all the time, just constantly being creative and bringing them content. And so, and if they wanted more, they just called me, and that's what I did. And so I went from teaching 4 other studios, like Black Swan Yoga was one, to just doing it on my own during the pandemic. Because I was like, I wasn't able to teach as often as they wanted me on the schedule. I had a lot of things going on, so I just had my one community class, and that's what I do now. Like if somebody wants me to teach a random class, like I have one coming up for the Renaissance Festival, so I'm going to be teaching there
at the Texas Renaissance Festival.
I think it's the one in
Or
San
the one
Antonio.
in
Yeah. I think it's a newer one. I don't think it's that big one. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna teach this one class, and that's like my one every 6 months.
Are you gonna have to dress in like Renaissance
I hope
attire?
not,
That's
'cause
pretty
that's
That would be
hilarious.
super uncomfortable. Yeah.
So try not to flash the world when you do this pose. Yeah.
But nah, the reason why I'm asking is because like I got into yoga. I was powerlifting for a while, and then my back just hurt it one day, and I couldn't get up. And I'll never want to feel like this again. And then I talked to someone like, hey, like, what can I do to, like avoid these injuries? And we're like, yoga. Yeah. Because powerlifting, you're stiff. Like yoga will loosen up your body. So that's what I feel like that's where my passion that I didn't know I had, like that's where it grew, because I did yoga for like 2 weeks, and literally like I didn't take any medicine or I didn't go to any rehab. That was my rehab. Yeah. And just helping balance my body. So now I've done it for like 3 years already, and it's like my Friday, like this is my thing, like I have to do it.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those that like yoga has a lot of things, that where I look at it is it's not as intense as a powerlifting workout, but it's a lot of it is mental, because you have to balance a side of your body that you're not very good coordinated at.
Yeah, but that's why it's so good, because it balances everything out. And this is what I used to try to tell the the San Antonio Athenians. So when I started playing, I was also like helping to like teach them yoga, like at some practices, just to like, it's different to stretch at soccer versus like really focusing on a stretch. Like yoga incorporates the breath. You have to slow it down. You have to hold it. You have to really be aware of like when you do it often, you begin to like garner this awareness of your body. Like, you know, when something's off or tweaked without it even really hurting. You're like, I think I'm going to pull this muscle here pretty soon. And then lo and behold, you do, right? So that's the cool part about yoga is like it does bring that awareness and it brings that balance to the body. And that's actually why I got into it too, is because my back, I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't play soccer. Like I was just really stiff, and yoga loosened me up enough to where I was able to go back and do these things. But I will say, like, you know, like just from my journey, especially my most recent journey going back to soccer, that's where I learned, like, you can't just rely on yoga. You have to do strength training and core building and other kind of movements to prep you for, like, a really intense game like soccer, if that's what you want to do. But even then, like, you don't want to be a Gumby. You know, you want to be really strong and have that core, but you want to be balanced. Yeah.
No, that's something that I'm starting to struggle with, like, now and at 31 and, you know, getting older every day. I feel like the recovery time to certain things get harder.
It's longer.
The injuries last a little longer.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and I'm just not as loose as I was before. And I do a lot of strength training too. So that's something that I've been meaning to incorporate, because my wife is huge on yoga. She does it like almost daily. And Rich, he's actually told me about it. But that's cool that you talk about the awareness of the body and how soccer is a very intense game, but it requires a balance of strength, of mobility, of flexibility, and just awareness of your body. How all those things can kind of come into that system.
Right, in your mind too. Like, I wish I had known about yoga when I was playing in college, because I think of all the times, like, in games where I would panic and lose composure. I remember my coach being like, "You need to get better composure," and I'm like, I'm literally having a panic attack. Did you see how big that girl is? Oh my god, you know, like, so I just feel like if I had had those tools, that it would have been very different, you know. But it's hard to sell that to athletes even nowadays with, like, you know, Gen Z being, you know, very aware and like super into, like, you know, therapy and everything. And I love therapy, by the way. I'm a huge component of therapy. But, you know, what I've noticed about these younger players is they're just built a little different. They're a little more aware of things, and even trying to pitch it to them, they're like, okay, like, we can only handle so much of this. We need to, like, go run and do stuff now, you know? So I get it. But, like, I think sometimes it's not until you get older that you realize the value of certain things.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And before we go like into topics, I want to ask you, as a woman, how's it like being like working in the media, and what has been, like, say, a reward, but also it's a challenge?
Like, how much time you got?
Oh, we got time.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. You know, I feel like I've had my struggles. There can be some very predatory people in this business, and it's not until you go through it and you experience certain things that you realize this is not okay, or this is a red flag, or this person's bullshitting me. Like, my bullshit radar is pretty solid now. Prior, not so much. I had to learn my lesson, and kind of glad I did it, like, at home in that setting, you know, like near my family, and not like a lot of people go to LA and like try to be in this big market, and then they get burned, and then they're burnt out and they never want to do it again. But, like, you know, it's been quite the emotional roller coaster, especially early on, starting when people don't understand, you know, your potential yet, or they don't see it, or, you know, in my case, I didn't even know really where I wanted to be. I just knew that I liked production, both off camera and on camera. I liked being up and moving and the whole journalistic side of things. It wasn't until soccer that I was like, oh, I'm obsessed. Why the hell didn't I connect these dots? Like, why it took me so long, you know? And part of it was the acceptance thing, but also, like, I just finally realized, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it, and no one's going to tell me otherwise. Like, that's it. Like, I made up my mind. Good luck with trying to get me to stop doing this stuff. So that was a big component of it, you know, and I think whenever you begin to take responsibility for that, and you choose to do something come hell or high water, and you choose to just pour yourself into it, you become like this magnet, and stuff kind of flows to you and comes to you. But, like, you have to be living in your fullest authentic self to do that. You know, you have to, like, and it's something that I've known since I was practically born and played since I was 4, so like it's just something that comes from a different part of my soul. I feel like when I'm talking about it or around it, and I have this like vision for myself that feels attainable now when years ago it didn't. But a big part of why this feels attainable is because of the people who took a chance on me before I was anything. I remember I went to this photo shoot, or I went to a commercial audition to be Wonder Woman because I freaking love Wonder Woman. And I was like, I want to be Wonder Woman on a commercial.
I could see it.
And so, so I tried and I didn't get it, but I got an extra position, I got a position as an extra. And I remember going up to the director after and be like, hi, I'm Katie, da-da-da. Like, I love the studio you guys have. Looks like you guys do a bunch of different things. I researched, da-da-da. Like, really cool to meet you. I'd love to have lunch or talk about, like, goals and things, or if you have any projects you want to work on. And that single conversation is the reason I'm sitting here talking to you right now.
Wow.
Because he took a chance on me, somebody who is a total random, but it's because I kept knocking on his door. I kept saying, I have an idea. I want to do this. I want to do that. Da-da-da. Tried to get a show started during the pandemic about health and wellness and yoga. He was going to help me do it, and then he got pulled off to the NBA bubble, and so that fell through. But all for good reason, I think, because here I am doing this thing that I'm super aligned with, and so now it's like I'm also able to pick up on who is actually on my side and who isn't. And some people just, they don't have the ability to really give you what you need or, to give you what they want to give you. Sometimes they just can, and that's okay. But like, if you're constantly going to somebody asking for something and they're like, yeah, and then they just don't come through on it and false promises, like that's a pretty big sign that like they're not exactly in your corner, but like for the most part, like I said, I've had quite a few people, and because of my experience prior to sports, I thought sports would be even worse when it comes to like just predatory people and, or even men, but like, honestly, my experience has been fantastic. I've had great people backing me the whole time. And I think part of it's because I get really intense and serious about it, and they're just like, she really likes soccer,
shit.
Don't mess with her.
She gets in ESPN Deportes is this thing called Fútbol Picante. You get in the Fútbol Picante mode, like, all right, you want to get to it, let's go.
Yeah, for reals, man. That's just how I naturally am with it, But I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some instances where there are people who will, talk down to you or be condescending, and you're like,
The haters.
Well, it's more of like, those people tend to be people who aren't wildly successful. Like, I've never had anyone be condescending to me who like really had their shit together and who was awesome and who was someone that I admired. It's always someone who I don't admire. I'm always like, why would I take advice from you? Like, what are you doing that's so fantastic? Or like, who do you think you are to be condescending to me? I don't know. And I'm like, even if I suck terribly, like, don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, just like people who have it together. You've seen it even in players. Like, the best players are typically really humble, messy, really humble, but like works hard and does great and knows they're great. And that's the thing. It's no different in this thing. And anytime someone's a jerk to me, I'm like, you got a very fragile ego. Because like, why else would you be mean to anybody?
Because I feel like whenever someone's successful, they don't have time for bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they're so focused on being successful.
Right. Yeah.
And initially the people that that tend to just be condescending, they're the people that just are, you can always tell by the social media. Their social media, for example.
Yeah.
Those are the type of people, like, it's not my fault that they have this weird way of, like, I've seen it in some people, and it's just like, it's not the fact that you don't understand what I'm saying, it's the fact that you don't get, like, basically saying my point of view is higher than your. No, it's not the fact that my opinion doesn't matter. It's the fact that my opinion is stronger than yours or something like that.
Right, like, or also like excuses, kind of like a victim type mentality sometimes, like all of that kind of thing. I don't know. Or because they know somebody, they think they're automatically famous, and you're like, all right, bro, you do you.
It comes from like just a sense of entitlement. Sometimes a sense of bitterness or something, something that burned them along the way, and they have to burn the world. It's really shitty to hear that, but I'm glad to hear that in your case it's been the anomaly compared to the environment that you described and kind of your trajectory.
Yeah, it's been great.
One thing that I think would be good to talk about is like, okay, so Katie, you've gone through like a lot of things. Your whole story, I've just thought of Manu Ginobili like playing and just like getting all those loose balls, like, and it's been, if you can go back and like give yourself some advice, what would that be?
This is the advice that I now stick by as an older person in this world. It's understanding that, you know, if you don't get an opportunity, it's okay because it wasn't meant for you. And that most likely something else or something better is going to come for you that is meant for you. Like, I think about all the things that I, like, you know, was sad about because I didn't get this job or that job. And looking back, I'm like, man, I could slap myself because I am now doing this thing that I could have never imagined that would be my job, you know, and that I love. And like, that just makes me get up every day and want to be my best self and keep going. And so, like, when things don't work out, or there's always, especially when you're starting out, there's always this purgatory period where, you know, you don't have like your solid big gig yet, and you're just kind of waiting for the next thing. And the thing is, you have to be doing something while you have the thing that you have to create the next thing, right? It's not going to just come to you. But in that time when you're inevitably going to have to wait anyway, it's just trusting the process, trusting it'll happen. And like I said, every time it comes around, because this happens, it comes back around, and I'm like, oh no, like, I've got time on my hands, or I need to do something, or this, or maybe I am doing things, but I'm not doing the things that I want to do. Like, I'm not where I want to be yet. And I just have to keep telling myself, like, hey, I'm literally cultivating an energy that is bringing all of these people into my sphere, and I'm going to end up bumping into someone who is a good fit for me to either collaborate with or work with, or I'm going to be a good fit for somebody. But it has to come from me and my own authenticity. I can't be something for somebody, like, because it'll just fade. So it's kind of like just being okay with who you are and where you are and knowing that it's going to come. I think I didn't fully believe that until I got on the Spurs broadcast. I would tell myself that, but there's no way I believed it. And I remember talking to the director and getting off the phone and being like, did that really happen? I'm going to have to email them. I was like writing down notes in my phone. I'm like, the notes are here. Did I just have like a crazy, like, why would they ask me? And like, I knew him and I had talked to him, and I'm like, I was not expecting this. And I just remember like crying, like the happiest tears of my life, because I was like, do you know how hard it is not only to get on a Spurs broadcast, but as a local? There aren't a ton of locals, even on a Spurs broadcast, who fosters community. And a lot of those girls on there were from surrounding areas. Michelle Beadle was from Bernie, but who was from inner city San Antonio? Me. And I just remember thinking, like, there's nobody who can convince me now that this isn't for me. Nobody. And not a parent, not anybody. And I think up until that point, my dad didn't take it seriously either. And then after that, he was like, oh, shit, we got to get you... we gotta make this happen, you know, like he was all on board, and he was starting to buy into it too, because he could see like the passion around it, and now he takes a very different tone with me on it. He sees that it's something that I'm going to do no matter what. But the faith in yourself and being authentic, and just knowing it's going to come, and you know, like I said, it happens a lot. Even when you have your thing, you still think I want more or I want different, and it'll come.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that, like, I personally I believe on as well, because I thought about, you know, like when this podcast started, you know, where do I want to go, and it's just like I can't just depend on Austin FC stories every episode. Yeah, I can depend on, you know, talking about it, but they're not the main thing. They're not who I like. Say they're not the reason why we exist. Like, we have our own reason. And a lot of it is, like, say, bringing guests that want to share their stories. And also building my own media. Like, say, whenever credentials, I've learned to surf them around, like, a way to, like, how can I get access to some things? And they asked me, like, who's your media outlet? I'm like, my podcast. And they're like,
I hate that.
Okay. And they're like, they and now it's like, at the Moody, I get, like, there was for the group for Firme, when I did the application, the deadline passed, and like, you know what? Because you have to do it like 2 weeks in advance, and I'm like, oh crap, it's already like 10 days before. And then I'm like, I emailed the guy that did the approval the last time, and I'm like, hey, what are the chances I can get access to this show? He's like, all right, let me open up the link so you can put the application and I'll put it through. And I was like, okay, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
They replied. So,
Yeah.
and I'm also thinking of other things in the future and what we can do. And a lot of it's the same there. Just sending an email. What's the worst that people can say no?
Right. Right.
So you shoot your shot. That's I think one of our friend Tony said this. Shoot your shot. And Tony Fuentes, he does photography at the stadium. And yeah, like literally, that's what you got to do. But I'm glad the fact that like as a local, because I feel like it's different when you're a local, you're working on the city's team, and you're coming from another place and you're working for the team, because you have more, like, your passion for this team is there. Like, they will know they know it's gonna seem like they're getting more out of you than out of someone that comes from out of town. No disrespect to their work and no disrespect to what they do or their career. It's great, but it's just having someone from there is different. And I think like my goal is to be able to be like a place where people come and, you have this artist that's going to be doing a tour, let's have a 5-second talk with Otra por favor. They're like, hey, before we go anywhere, can we have the Otra por favor guys and, do an interview or something? Like that's what I'm thinking of as if you're talking about it. And also as I started looking at your career, like say your resume, and I'm like, man, like I felt encouraged. I'm like, I feel like, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah,
Definitely, Katie, your story has been inspiring, and thank you for sharing. I think we can all take many of these lessons with us and help us grow and just pursue our goals and passions as well. And definitely that pinch me moment that you speak about being on the Spurs broadcast is special. I could see it in the way your face lit up and the way you talked about it, how special a moment that was. Like, it feels like that was like a big turning point.
Oh, it was a huge turning point. It was everything. All of the opportunities I've gotten since were from that. I got a lot more respect in the community as well. People asked me to do more podcast interviews like these.
Oh, that's great.
Nice. And, for the first time, people felt interested in me and my story. And for a long time, actually right before my mom passed, she's like, Katie, you need to write a book and you need to tell people about the things that have happened and what you've been through and all this stuff. And I just remember being like, nobody wants to listen to my story. Like, why would I talk about that, And so it's weird to have people now asking me about it, and stuff like that. And it just feels very full circle.
We look forward to having you back on when you finish your book.
Yeah. It's going to be a minute because I can't even finish an essay for my master's
there
class.
We
go.
Well,
First the
we're
essay.
We're going to put a pin
then
in that one. Yeah. Maybe I can just compile the essays and be like, this is my book now.
Hey, you know what? Before the season starts, I have an idea. How about you and Michelle are in the same table? That would be a pretty cool one. Michelle Sanchez. You and her in the same table.
That would be fun.
Talking about like Austin FC. That would be like something amazing.
Yeah. No,
I'll produce it. I'll take care of the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Y'all just show up and talk, and we'll make sure we get some more flower child for y'all.
Yeah, there you go. Seriously, food is the way to my heart. Like, that's my love language. Like, it's not, I don't know, maybe it's a combination of gifts and acts of service. I don't know, but food, I love it. I'll take it. Yeah, but no, I think it's important for women to empower women and to work together and collaborate together. Mm-hmm. People talk about how, competitive women can be in this industry and how unlikely it is for a woman to help another woman. I will say I have not had a ton of help from other women, but I have gotten some good advice and I have had some help from women, but just not, I feel like there's still like this idea that there's not enough space for us. But the only way to create space is to work together to create more openings, to do different things. That's why there's like Just Women's Sports, ESPNW, women, the women's game is growing. Like, I think we might just have to be a little more creative in how, we enter that space. But I genuinely believe there's a space for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think when you come in with this mindset of fear, like maybe it might get taken from you, that's just only going to breed more fear, and that's just coming from a place of like insecurity that there's not enough. But like, I love seeing other women in the press box because typically it's just me and a bunch of dudes. And so when I see another girl, I'm like, what's up, girl? I like your outfit. because I do. And it's like, you know, it's just so good to have like a feminine presence in there who also knows the sport and like knows her stuff. And I think as women, we all know like we kind of have to be on our A game because we get a bad rap if we're not. If we don't over prepare and over study, that's when you get a bad rap. So yeah, I think that's one of my favorite part about women in sports is they're all super dedicated and they all know their stuff. Because if you don't, you're gonna get, you know, hung at this or fried. Burned at the stake. Yeah,
Dang.
it's like I don't know what I was trying to go for with that. But.
Like ESPN in Spanish, Deportes. I listen to it a lot because they bring the women to the analysis table, and sometimes they're in the same table just throwing punches with the guys, and it's cool because I mean whenever like say like they're not really like you know they don't have this machismo against them. They don't have this you know like bringing them down.
Tito soccer.
No.
Siri wanted to.
No.
Siri's like, y'all talking about women?
Yeah.
Let me call Tito. Hey, Tito. Remember Tito?
Yeah.
The one thing that I like is the fact that when it's time to analyze, like they do give them enough time, like equal for everyone on the table, and they don't hold back on them, but they're like, hey, you know what, actually. Give it to me like the way you were gonna give it to your buddy right there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'll take it.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing you bring up there because it's not often that women do get the same amount of talking time. That is something I have realized. Part of it, you know, is when I'm talking about a sport I'm not super in tune with, you know, like soccer. I feel like I can talk about it for days, but then there are certain sports where I'm like, I feel like it's better to be quiet in this moment and then give my 2 cents that matter, that are of quality, than to like just talk, right? But then there are times where like, oh, I got something. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, take a breather, man, and let me say what I'm going to say. Like, what am I just here hanging out with you?
Yeah.
Like, God, you know, like there's moments where that happens. There really is. But then, you know, when you make it to a group of people and they're not like that, it's really nice because you're like, oh, okay, all right, we can like throw some punches and they're not like, you know, being too soft or cushiony with me. You know, like we can play and have fun. And someone who does a really good job of that is Michelle Beadle. You know, she can hold her own in any situation, any sport. I have so much admiration for her. Like, she's like, you know, you could think she has no idea anything about the most random sport, and she does somehow, you know, and she'll have something to say about it even if she doesn't. And that's always like really funny. And, you know, I think that's also where you kind of fuse entertainment and personality with facts, right? It's not just like, nobody wants you to just spit facts at them all the time and like, well, this is what happened.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Just let Wikipedia read it out.
Right.
You need some color. You need something different, something entertaining.
Yeah. Like something a little like, I feel like when you talk about like, or you're analyzing, you can't just be all the time throwing numbers. Sometimes a little bit of you, like sometimes a little bit of, you know, like what I call a little hood in there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and that's another thing that's so interesting that you bring that up because it's hard to like. I found in other genres of TV, you know, whether it's yoga or lifestyle, it's harder for me to be my full authentic self than with soccer because it's like, oh, we're gonna talk about soccer. You know, I might drop couple F-bombs here and there. It's like, that's me, you know, but like when you're doing yoga on a local TV show, you're like, it's like someone told me once, it sounds like you're talking to your grandparents. And I'm like, well, because I am talking to a bunch of grandparents. So,
know your audience.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you want me to go on there and just go rogue and like AWOL? No, I don't think you do. You know, so it was kind of, I still find that as a struggle for me, even on like YOLO Texas when I do it, but I'm starting to get better at bringing this personality to it and not being like, okay, now next we're going to go here and do this thing. You know, it's like, all right, we're here. We're going to go try this.
Sheet.
Yeah. And like, it just comes across a lot better, but growing into this, I was always taught to do something different. And so it's just cool to be doing things where people are like, no, we just want you to talk like you just talked to us over there. I'm like, okay, got it.
Just be yourself. Be authentic.
Like in that case, let's do this sheet. Let's go.
Yeah, right.
Hey, by the way, the producer just called me. He said, Coca, can you get closer to the table? Thank you, sir. But
I'm out of frame.
out of frame. But no, that's
I'll
fine.
wait.
It's been like an hour.
Yeah, I know.
It's all good.
It's the producer that, like, he just got it. He was taking a nap.
Yeah.
He was
It's all
putting
good.
that coke on a Saturday after,
Oh, I love me some naps.
nap. But what we'll do is let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about the World Cup and, talk about more soccer.
Get into it.
So this podcast is sponsored by Tecate, the beers that we got at the store earlier.
Tecate light.
Shout out Tecate for not giving us anything.
Yeah. I was like, you got Tecate as a sponsor? Damn. I was like, I can drink this all the time.
There you
like
go.
I need an excuse.
Salud.
Katie, are you good with drinks? Are you
I'll take another one.
okay?
Todo,
Why
Katie.
not?
Todo.
A huevo.
Oh, well, hey, there we go. I'm actually going to leave this
Hey,
part
that's,
right here.
That's the Spanish.
The Spanish.
Spanish.
Oh, yeah, the
degree
next-
coming in.
The next, the next
one
section.
more of these and I'm fluent.
Bah.
my degree will be put to use.
There we go. Salud.
Salud. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers, cheers, cheers. And now let's talk about what we all like to talk about and what is going on right now. By the time this episode records,
Drops.
I'm gonna drops. There we go, drops.
drops. Like we're about to drop.
And that's funny because I'm saying drops and then I'm saying record and then Katie's like,
You know what I'm saying.
you know what I'm saying.
That's-
The game was, I'm gonna do my best to release it on Monday, but the game might already have passed, and it's U.S. against Wales, the first game of the World Cup.
The baby Eagles.
Yeah, man. So I know we already had Esteban, and he covered a lot of the Mexico part, and I really want to dedicate more time to to the American team, the U.S. team, because one,
El equipo de todos.
el equipo de todo. We're here, we live in America. I root for both. I root for the U.S. and I root for Mexico. When they play against each other, I root for Mexico. Sorry, but when we're playing like against other people, I'm like, let's go, Team USA. And
Sí, pero sus pensamientos en Pepe.
pinche Pepe.
Pinche Pepe.
Uh,
Ariola. Not making the roster.
that's sad, dude.
What do you?
Especially when he could have gone to Mexico and
I know, yeah. He made that decision thinking that it was, for him, it was a correct decision that in his mind, and now he's having to sit this one out while he's going through a better spell than he's been going through in the past. Like he's actually scoring goals.
yeah.
And I think he had like a whole Nike ad going on for the World Cup. It's like,
Oh shit.
yeah,
Maybe
That's
that
tough.
was part of it.
that's kind of a curse right there.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
You cursed
Too
it.
so.
soon.
Nike, Adidas, don't do anything. Is it?
Is that Pepe?
No,
Yeah.
I wish,
Put him on the mic.
but that
Pepe,
was
your
so
thoughts?
weird. It's this thing, man. I don't know how to work. First time I get it, I watch my mom give it to me, and it always comes on. So I'm about to just turn it off.
I've always wanted one of those,
You
but I've
just
always been afraid
settle
of
it.
that.
Boom.
There you go. All right. It'll be off for now. Sorry about that. But so for me is when I think of marketing, like you kind of want to do marketing or anything, push players when you already know they're about to go. Not players that, they're still in the maybe yes, maybe no. But like Pepe, and the Nike ad, that could have just been done with another player. Like we know they're going to go, like Pulisic or someone else.
Yeah.
But-
I don't know. Like, also that's kind of a bold move. As a
True.
player, I'd be like, don't jinx me like that. Like, if you want to work with me, fantastic. But we're gonna have to do that after my name is on the roster.
Mhm.
That to me is I'm very superstitious, and I know a lot of players are. So I'm wondering how he's feeling about that now. But also, like you said, he's been scoring goals. He's been doing good things, but it's also like, where does he fit in the system? Does he
Yeah.
fit in with the system that they're playing right now?
And it's tough too because he was he was partners with Jesus Ferreira at in Dallas.
Su compadre.
Dallas FC, and they had two distinct trajectories. One staying in the domestic league, and he went to go try the Bundesliga. Didn't work out too much for him, and to be out of a World Cup, it must definitely hurt. But it was nice to see that when he scored his latest goal in his in I forget what league he's playing in. I think it's like the
I think he went from
Netherlands. In the Netherlands.
yeah, Netherlands. He went from
It's like a second
from-
division team.
Bundesliga does.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but he's scoring and his team kind of rallied around him and all hugged him and you know that shows that they know what he's going through and it's tough. But I mean, if you don't mind, let's just go through the roster.
Let's do it. I can pull that out here for us.
Goalkeepers: Ethan Horvath of Luton Town, Sean Johnson of New York City FC,
Mm-hmm.
Matt Turner of Arsenal. It seems like Matt Turner is going to be the starter, probably.
Yeah. I'm still kind of like a little shocked about the Stefan thing. Zach Stefan.
Yeah, he got the snub, right?
Yeah, a lot of people are too. And
Zach Stefan, that's the one that plays for Man City?
That's right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm like, don't ask me. Cause
Yeah, no, he's a Man
Yeah.
City
Yeah.
player.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, that's the thing about this is like, you have to understand like Berhalter is looking at, that's all he does is look at what these kids are doing, what they're doing well or not well, and how they work together. Because it's like you're having to pair this squad that you don't get a lot of time with. It's a new squad every time almost,
Right.
you know, and excuse me, I just burped into the mic.
Oh,
That's fine. I do it all the time.
That's
So
a
you guys
that's
keep forgiving me beer.
that's a common thing here in Otra,
Yeah.
por favor. That's actually if you don't burp, that's bad luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's that.
You're not having fun if you don't
sorry,
burp.
I'm in the club now. I'm officially in.
Yes. Cheers
I
to
was
that.
Cheers.
Maybe I should lay off the beer.
Cheers to burpees.
Cheers to the burpees. Oh my god, this is great. Yeah. So I don't know.
But
I need to also look
the
this up.
crazy thing about Matt Turner is that I think he started playing. He started goalkeeping in high school,
Yes.
and I think in the last World Cup, he was watching the 2018 World Cup as a casual fan. Like he wasn't even a professional player, I believe. Can you imagine we're watching this World Cup and then the next 4 years you're playing it?
Well, I mean, he was like the Gold Cup keeper for this past Gold Cup.
Yeah, but that was what 2 years ago.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, say, like, with that, like, say, the process. But I think winning that Gold Cup gave him some kind of leverage on staying on the team.
Yeah.
That's just what you always wanted to take a goalie that, has won something. And I think with the U.S. team, he's done great. So there's a confidence thing with goalies and coaches, especially like in a national team. So maybe that's one thing that he sees in Turner that probably didn't see in Stefan.
Yeah.
Defenders, we have Cameron Carter-Vickers of Celtic, Serginho Dest of AC Milan, Aaron Long, New York Red Bulls, Shaq Moore, Nashville SC, Tim Ream of Fulham, Anthony Jetty Robinson of Fulham, Joe Scally of Borussia
Say that
Mönchen-
5 times.
Mönchengladbach.
Wow. Got it.
Joe Scally or DeAndre Yedlin of Inter Miami FC and Walker Zimmerman in Nashville SC. What do y'all think about those defensive choices?
I like Zimmerman.
Yeah, same.
Zimmerman's solid. Like,
He's so consistent.
mhm.
You know, you kind of always know what you're going to get with him. And he's, I think, one of the best center backs, obviously, in the league, because otherwise he wouldn't be on the U.S. men's national team. But, I mean, I think he's really good. The thing is, like, who's going to be back there with him?
It's a good mix of domestic and international.
Yeah.
Yeah.
International squad. I don't know. I think Tim Ream is having a great season with Fulham, but the crazy thing is that he's in his like mid 30s. I think it's like 36, 35. I forget how old he is, but he's one of the older players in what is a super young squad, and I think that's one of the reasons that they brought him because of the moment he's living in Fulham. And also because of the experience that he brings to the squad, who's I think the average age to the squad is like in their low 20s. One of the younger squads of the World Cup.
Yeah. I think Serginho Dest is going to be on the left.
I really like him.
Because he has that the European experience, and that's a key, especially on that side. When you're playing left or right back, and he can play both sides too. So
I've heard that Tim Ream recently has been like a little overrated because he's been moving a little bit slower and things like that. And I'm like, well, in mid-30s, you know, like
Yeah.
I still think I would take experience over anything else because it's just, you can have all these young whippersnappers, but it's just not the same if they're not doing the right thing or the smart thing with the ball, you know?
Yeah, I don't. And we can get down the list a little bit further, but there's not that many players that have repeated from 2018. I think maybe just DeAndre Yedlin and Pulisic.
Yeah. They're all young. I mean, they're all new. Sorry. They're all new because 2018, like, they didn't make it. So it was like that generation kind of just
Too
like,
young.
it faded away.
Yeah.
So we have to restart.
Well, that gives us a lot of hope for 2026 too, and I think that's been like the main storyline is like, okay, let's see how this young squad does here in this World Cup, and then what it is that they need to do when the World Cup is on their home turf, and you know how big of a deal that will be, and you know people talk about just making it through this knockout, you know, this initial Group B, the group stage, and like moving into the 16, like how that would be a great win for U.S. But if they could get past that, how it would be even better because moving into 2026, like at what point is the U.S. going to have a real chance at this, you know? And so like when I see all of these young players, I think that's a great thing, you know? But they're not going to be that in 2026 if they're still around, you know? Like I think about players like Brendan Aronson. He has his younger brother Paxton Aronson coming up right behind him.
The Aronson family.
Yeah, they're just,
I don't know what they're doing.
Them two are going to be on the next squad, I think,
That's
together.
great,
Yeah.
Yeah, Brendan Aronson plays with Leeds United, and he's joined in the roster with his teammate Tyler Adams of Leeds United as well. Leeds United has been a really fun team to watch in the Premier League, also because of their coach.
That answer, I'm like, that's the hell what the hell was that, dude?
Dude, yeah, I know, but it seems like you know, it's kind of like a unofficial U.S. squad over there at Leeds United, but
basically,
so weird,
yeah, it is interesting. Like, interesting to see. Like, there's always like the Ted Lasso comparisons.
Yeah, yeah. That is interesting to me because a lot of people talk a lot of crap about the MLS, and I'm like, we have pumped out so many solid MLS players and sent them overseas. Like, you guys are just like picking a lot of these really solid players and taking them. Like, and even then, you have these like really great players from the Premier League coming back to MLS. So, you know, it's, I don't know.
No, I think MLS is one of the most represented leagues in the World Cup.
Yeah.
You know, next to like the major four.
Yeah.
MLS is right there in I think they definitely have more than what is always gets compared to the Liga MX.
Yeah.
They have more players represented.
This one.
Right.
For sure.
I mean, it's just one of those, for me, is like in Mexico, what I hear in the media is MLS already surpassed Mexico. It's a reality. I mean, in every aspect that you can. And it's just going to be growing from there. So, but like this competition with Mexico and the U.S., like having the Leagues Cup coming up, that's going to help a lot. I think that's going to help on the league getting more international exposure against other leagues, not just here in the U.S. playing, you know, local teams against local teams. Now you have a little more, you know, to offer and more exposure, I would say.
Yeah, that's something that I've kind of been preaching from day one is like needing these MLS teams needing to have more friendlies, like abroad friendlies, and you know, inviting big teams to play them and things like that, because that's how you get better. And you know, it's great that the U.S. men's national team has all these players that are, you know, playing in European leagues and coming back, but like, what are we doing here to foster that growth, you know, and so that one day MLS becomes that league, you know, that big top league. And I think a great way to circumvent that is to stop putting caps, like salary caps. Like money will buy anything, and the U.S. has a lot of money. So if they would just stop doing that, they could probably make a lot of headway versus like Premier League and stuff, you know, just start buying their way into success.
Yeah. I can see that happening. I could also, it's kind of difficult for me to see like other nations kind of like respecting the MLS to that point, because there's just a lot of stigma and stereotypes with the MLS league. Like for example, someone from England, someone from Italy, someone from Germany, for them to watch at the MLS league and follow with the same passion would be difficult.
Right, right.
Whereas here in the United States, we have huge fan bases of those European clubs. So I don't know how it would translate.
But
And
I think like
you could convert those people. I think you're more
Yeah.
likely to convert those people
Yeah.
that are here
Yeah.
following European leagues than you're never going to convert Europe.
Yeah,
Right,
They're
yeah.
pretty stuck. They're pretty
Right.
like this is it. This
Right.
is it.
Yeah.
And then the hard part too is that soccer is competing with like NBA and NFL.
Yep.
Like
The
it's
major
like how do
players.
you win that? And the only I don't think you're ever gonna I don't know that MLS will ever be more popular than NFL and NBA, but they can kind of really get up there, you know, by spending a shit ton of money and making things. Really easy.
no, and like say for example, like we talk about like like how would the European, like fans from England feel about it? I'm like, at the end of the day, that's not the market. The market is here.
Yeah.
Like you have over 300 million people here, and not just that, but like say Latin American people, they follow their players. So the following you're gonna get from the south of the border, it's gonna grow.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
Going down the list, we got Kellen Acosta from LAFC, Luca de la Torre with Celta de Vigo. One of my personal favorites, Weston McKinney of Juventus,
Yeah.
Yunus Musa, Valencia, Christian Roldan of Seattle Sounders FC.
Mm-hmm.
Forwards, Jesus Ferreira, FC Dallas, Jordan Morris, Seattle Sounders, Christian Pulisic of Chelsea. Big pressure for Mr. Christian.
Yeah, he has he has to, it's one of those that he's gonna have to learn how to carry the team on his back
Yeah.
subconsciously.
And he's been struggling at the club level.
He has been
So,
struggling at the club level. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
with different managers too, still struggling and not getting that consistency and it just not being that what we know the qualities that he has as being a super offensive, dangerous player with a lot of skills, but it hasn't translated to results with his club. And hopefully it's one of those things where some players, when they put on their national jersey, they convert into something else, and we know that Christian Pulisic is capable of that. So hopefully it comes through in this World Cup.
He's so creative that to the point of where when he is pulled off the pitch, you see an energy drop. You see stagnation, and that's the kind of player you want on your squad. But so much of a player being a good player is who is surrounding them. If he is the star on this team and they're trying to play to his strengths, it's going to make him look good. But if he goes to another squad and Chelsea, where he is not the superstar and they could give two shits about his strengths, and he's just there to compete and try to get on the pitch, it's different. So maybe what he needs is somewhere that treats him like that star, because it really brings the best out in him. I think when I see him playing for the U.S. men's national team versus in other games, I feel like he's just different. He's a standout and he's huge, and he makes a full impact. So it's my
Speaking of
hot take.
creativity, Gio Reyna, one of my favorite players of
He's in the squad.
Borussia Dortmund. Injury prone Gio Reyna, young starlet Gio Reyna. I really hope he has a great World Cup. We have Claudio Reyna here at Austin FC.
El tío,
El
saludos.
tío. I'm sure he's going to be following this super closely with his son playing. But man, I always pull for that guy. And the image that always comes to my head is like how he danced around Mexico in that what was it? The qualifying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! It didn't do anything. Like he just danced around like 4 or 5 players, and what could have been, I think someone he ended up losing the ball, or I don't know. But he's a special player.
I like him a lot too.
Yeah, Josh Sargent, Norwich City, Tim Way of Lille, and Haji Wright of Antalyaspor. I don't know if I said that right, but this is a huge list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
it's a lot of players, but I mean, the U.S. has a young squad. They haven't really been consistent recently. Like they've been struggling to score. It's crazy because they got a lot of talent in playing in competitive international leagues and getting game time, but it doesn't necessarily translate. So what do you think have been some of the issues there that the skill set that they have, the potential they have, doesn't translate to results in the field.
Well, I mean, if you look at what they did in qualifiers, the squad they brought to qualifiers, and then the squad they have now, there was a lot of changes. And, like, he's been constantly changing things, and it hasn't been, like, this solid squad that everyone kind of knows to expect, you know? And so I think that's part of the problem, is not just, like, choosing and deciding on your one squad and, like, running with that and working with what you got and trying to create, like, some chemistry with each other, because, like, chemistry is so underrated. You know, each of these guys are coming from different systems of play, different environments, possibly different speeds of play, different coaching styles, and they're all expected now to come under a whole new coach and produce. And like, think about a college soccer season, or even a new MLS squad, like how much they struggle in the first half of the season versus the second half. And it's because they haven't had the time yet together, and time is everything. And that's something that they don't have. Now, I know this is the same for every single squad almost, because, like, you know, you have the big dogs who are all, like, kind of operating under similar, like, Premier League, like their whole team's Premier League or whatever, you know. Right. But for the most part, I think, you know, like I said, I mean, Berhalter, he's the person that studies these players day in and day out. So I know, like, he has done his due diligence to see who he thinks is going to work the best off of someone else, just based on what they come with naturally without any coaching. I think that's the thing, is, like, what are they doing on their own without having to coach them? Because, like, in that environment, he doesn't want to have to coach somebody to do something a certain way, because you don't have enough time to get to that and deal with that and correct it, right? But at the same time, it's like knowing what players to put in at what time, that makes a difference to create, like, an energy boost, or, like, segue the game, you know, create some momentum or stop momentum on the other side. Like, I think there's a couple of times in qualifiers where he didn't make the right decisions. And so he's been under a lot of heat for that. And so I'm just wondering, like, when is his time up, you know?
You think that if they have a disappointing result in this World Cup, if they don't, like, let's say they don't make it past the group stage, that can mean Berhalter's job?
Possibly.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like you've got Wales, Iran, and England.
Yeah,
England,
let's run through the group. We got, like you said, England, 1966 world champs. USA, 1934 runner-up.
They're there. They're there.
Wales, last appearance, Wales in the World Cup, 1958. So they're probably super stoked to be back. And Iran, who I think they are kind of under the radar, but from what I hear, they have a solid squad. They have solid strikers up top. So our first game is against Wales.
So we tied Wales in 2020. It was a 0-0 game. I looked at what Wales has done prior to that. They've had a couple of close wins. Nothing crazy to me. Definitely beatable, but I don't think it's going to be that they're beaten by a lot. It's going to be like a 1-0 kind of game, or it might, you know, end in a tie. But I think just to become top two, you have to pretty much have one win and a tie at least. But, of course, it all depends on what England does, and if they just, like, sweep people, or, you know, it can change, right? But I think even if England were to sweep, I think as long as we could beat Iran or Wales and then tie someone else, I think we're going to lose to England.
You think we're going to lose to England?
I think we're going to lose to England, yeah.
How much?
I hope less than 3 goals against. But I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think the U.S. plays up. I do think they play up.
I think
they get real scrappy.
I think they might surprise us against England.
Right. Yeah, I feel like
a 2-1, 2-0 probably.
Like, there's one thing Mexico and the U.S. have similarities, is when it's World Cup time, they're a different squad.
Yeah.
Like, they're a different team. Like, I think with England, it's the one that they're probably studied more than Wales. I think their focus is, you know, England is the team, you know, like, because of the history, because, you know, the background stuff that has happened since 1976 and before that. There's more to it than Wales. And with Iran, it's just one of those that it's going to be part of the process. But for me, the key the key game for them is for sure against England.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to. I mean, every game is every game is an important game, but there's something about this English against the English that's gonna be bringing a little more meat to the more seasoning.
I think there's going to be a lot of goals in that game because I mean I think it's a very personal game to both squads. England line by line, they have incredible talent, even off the bench. Incredible talent, and they play in the best league in the world, and this and that. So they have everything in their favor, but I think it also kind of works against them being too much of a favorite.
Yeah,
and their media and like their press over there is very overconfident that they're going to win this game, and I think that's when, like you said, that's when USA shines best, man.
That's when they're the underdogs.
Count them out.
Yeah,
because it takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off. You have players like Pulisic that so much pressure. So when you take that pressure off, I feel like he's gonna have an amazing game, and I think the squad can really rally around that being that underdog.
And they are an underdog, but also like if you look at their squad, they have all of this like European League influence, so it's not like they're anything to snub by any means.
Exactly.
Like
they know what they're up against because they compete against that on a regular
and they're
basis.
used to that competition. It's not like say if there's one thing we don't have that type of competition as often as like U.S. players have.
Right.
Like they're always up there, fighting for a starting 11.
Yeah.
So I think England, we're gonna have a tie. We're going to beat Wales, and we're going to beat Iran.
Here's my thing. Like, we saw this in qualifiers where U.S. men's national team either barely won or, like, they just didn't seal the deal on a couple of occasions. And that's my worry is, like, they play up and they, like, build up these big games, like, against England, and they want to get these upsets, which would be huge if they get England, right? Because their chances of getting in are even better. But, like, don't underestimate Iran.
Yep.
Obviously, they're not going to underestimate Wales because I think it's too close of a call for them to do that. But are they going to play up against them like they do with England? I hope. I freaking hope. Maybe it being the first game will, maybe there'll be a spark of something, that they need to prove. But the problem is with the teams like Iran, and we've seen this in their history, like who, no matter who's on the squad, like some sort of psychological thing happens where if they don't feel like they're respecting their competitor, they don't treat them with respect, and then they get disrespected too by freaking almost losing the game or tying or losing, so I don't know. They just got to take it game by game.
I think if I were USA and I got to choose the order of games, I would have made it exactly as it is now. I would want to play Wales, England, and then finish with Iran. So I think the schedule benefits the US because they're starting off kind of not so hard with Wales. Right. They got the most difficult team in the middle. And then they have a chance to save their asses if they really need those 3 points against Iran. So I don't know,
the Iran game is going to be it's one of those deceiving ones because you don't know what to expect.
You don't know what to expect, but at least you're not having to close out with England.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I'm super excited about this group. I'm super excited to see these young guys out there. Most of them in their first World Cup. I think this is like a great opportunity for them to get that experience at the World Cup level, previous to having the World Cup here in the United States. And to be quite honest, like this is one of the first times that I don't know if it's because I followed a lot of these guys in the Prem League, but I'm really excited to watch USA. Like I've always rooted for Mexico, and I still do, and I love it. Of course, if they play against each other, I'm gonna root for Mexico just because that's where my heart is. But this USA squad, I'm definitely rooting for them every game too. Yeah. So
I can't help but root for them.
I know.
Yeah.
They just have that like gritty American nature. And I read something like even during qualifiers where it was saying like you can be the best team in the world and you're going to hate playing against the U.S. men's national team because they're just so physical and if they have to be, they'll be scrappy. They give everything. It's
they got some dogs.
It's not like
they
a
got
walk
some
in the
dogs
park.
like Tyler Adams. Oh my gosh, that guy he will mess you up. Man.
Mosa.
Yeah, Mosa he's playing great in Valencia. He's got a crazy good shot from outside. I mean, there's the pieces there but
Yeah.
whether the pieces
Putting them
fit
together,
and
that's
work,
where it's at.
That's the
Yeah.
other thing. And then I'm not a big Greg Berhalter fan. I think he's kind of a strange dude. Like the little bounce passes he does, like on the touchline, unnecessary.
Hey man, he wants to be a character.
Too stylish. Like,
Yeah.
like why are you worried so much like about your style?
I can't
like,
stand his sneaker game.
like sneaker
I
game.
like his
Like,
sneaker game, but
it's just a bunch of extra distractions to me.
He has this
Yeah.
like,
I also feel like that's very American media, though. Like trying to find that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like literally anything to talk about other than soccer. You know,
Yeah, I guess so.
I
But
don't know.
nah, we there's some of that over in this side too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then
We got El Piojo, so that's a character.
I'm ready for change too, though, with Berhalter.
Yeah.
Like more from like just give someone else a shot to see what happens because it's been a little inconsistent with him.
Now, so is the shopping gonna be going before or after the game against Wales?
It would have to be after because I'm addicted to shopping.
Mm.
Or maybe not at all because I'm also pretty broke right now. So maybe this will be a great distraction from not going Black Friday shopping.
oh man, so what are your Black Friday spots that you like to hit up?
I used to love going to the San Marcos outlets
Oh,
because they're already kind of discounted, and then you go there and it's even more discounted, but you just have to like find the right spots, you know. But now I'm so like I've not been Black Friday shopping in a long time. Like I might buy some things online, but then I'm like, for the most part, I just don't feel the need to go stand in line to get something or whatever. Like I don't know. I think the last time I did it, I got a TV
Oh damn.
and a like a DVD player from like Best Buy or something, and that was like Armageddon because people are like crazy.
Did you have to fight some
yeah,
people?
no.
like, snatch it
luckily,
off this old
luckily I
woman's hands?
didn't. I was like, look, guys, I
I
lifted weights like 5 years ago. So.
I snatched a
Better
TV
watch
from
out.
an old lady once.
Damn, dude.
I know she had it in her cart, and
she
I'm
had
like,
a
look,
limited
that
time
way.
here, and, you
And
took
I'm
her
like,
TV.
I felt
man.
bad, but
He
hey,
doesn't
man,
play to lose, all right?
it's all in the gray area, I would say.
Nah, dude, I'm actually pretty late. Like my favorite Black Friday experience has been going to Home Depot
Oh, nice.
because you wait in line. It's the only time I've done it where you like wait in line until it opens, and you know you walk in and they had donuts and coffee for like the first
Oh.
shoppers.
You're like, I'm just there for the donuts.
So I got the donut. Yeah, I know, right? I got the donut. I got the coffee, and you get first dibs at everything. We got a one of those like 8-foot pre-lit Christmas trees that are usually like $500.
cool.
We got it for like $100.
Oh,
100
Not bad.
nice.
Fire pit, you know, got that for $50. Like, okay, cool.
Dang.
But apart from that, I've never really gone to like any of the big department stores, or
Mhm.
I've never been in like the crazy stampede moments. But
You know who has a good one is the Lululemon outlet. They also have really good, if you like
Indeed.
really good quality, lasting leggings and jackets and stuff. Like I found a lot of really good stuff there a couple years ago.
I got a couple of things from that outlet, and then I always tell them I'm a trainer at Hyperwear, and they're like, "Oh, it's in the fitness industry," but they don't.
Yeah.
they're like, "Okay," they give me like a 20% on top of the
Yeah,
discount.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Heck yeah!" Now let's talk a little bit about Qatar. It's been a shit show. I mean,
can't say that word here, bro.
can't say that word
I just
here.
say World Cup 2022.
Yeah, okay, World Cup 2022.
After watching FIFA Uncovered.
God.
Which
Bro.
word? The Q word? We can't say the Q
The
word.
Q word.
Nah, I'm just being. That's just me. I'm being weird.
No,
Which word? Because I've said a lot of foul words. So it's like now we're screaming. ourselves? Okay.
I just hate like promoting like Qatar.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does
this
feel
World
weird.
Cup.
And like the name
it's-
sounds cool, but it's just like
it's
what's
taken
behind
away.
it.
It's taken away a lot of the joy
Yeah.
that I typically feel World Cups. I mean, first, it's in the winter. You know,
Yeah.
I'm used to the summer days, long days. It's in a place that is not very accepting of different parts. Different you know preferences, or you know, and alcohol is another thing, and just. But the thing that hurts me the most is like the
The
situation.
alcohol?
It's like you cross the line with the Budweiser.
No, Budweiser, yeah, okay, I get it. It's a Muslim religion. I understand, but when it comes to the migrant workers there, the whole situation
Yeah.
there, like 6,500 people that have died building the stadium, and you know that's about the same amount of people that have died in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. You know what I mean? and you know we're gonna celebrate, we're gonna have fun, but I'm very conscious of that.
Yeah.
There's a great documentary called The Workers' Cup that shows inside access to like what these conditions were like, and it shows a tournament that a lot of the workers had and participated during that would be organized to kind of show the world that, hey, it's not so bad for migrant workers here, but it actually is kind of like an expose that I really recommend. It's called The Workers' Cup. I think it's available on Amazon Prime. And then recently I watched the whole FIFA Uncovered, and it's just like
that one from the first episode,
eye-opening.
I was like, just the trail of how everything was going down, and that's everything that was literally from 1998. Well, before that, like how everything just started, like up to this moment. It was like, God damn.
I actually still need to watch that.
Oh, dude,
sadly.
it's super good.
Both of
I
those.
would just wait probably to like after the World
After.
Cup. Yeah, because
Enjoyed in ignorance.
I had to stop. I know it's kind of like, oh man, I feel bad, but it's one of those that
Ignorance is really bliss for sure, because
yeah.
I think when the World Cup was awarded, more people were like more confused about Russia, and I guess a lot of people just didn't know much about Qatar.
Yeah.
Like what is this nation? Like why? Where is this nation? How big is it?
Yeah.
It had zero infrastructure, so like people started learning more and more as we got closer to what is now this tournament. I feel like once the majority, like the masses started knowing what was happening, like everything was already put into place where it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So
not to get super political on us, but imagine when the World Cup comes to the United States and people start poking around at the same things. Yeah, maybe we don't have like mass slave labor and people dying to create, stadiums. But what about like other human rights issues that we have going on? Like other movements that aren't good movements happening right now. I just think about like the pressure and scrutiny that we're going to be under. And, on one hand, it's like, oh no. But on the other hand, I'm like, good. Somebody needs to put some freaking pressure on some of these people for acting the way that they act and like hating marginalized groups of people or people who just want to authentically be themselves. That's the thing. Like, stop trying to control people and just let people be who they are. And like, let people have some, self-agency over their bodies, and I just think that this is going to be an issue whenever the World Cup comes to the United States. I think it's going to be a similar thing. There's going to be a lot of stuff uncovered. That's not going to be very pretty for us. And like, still, obviously, I've seen a lot. I haven't watched the documentaries, but I've seen a lot on Twitter and everything about Qatar. And like, at first I wanted to go, and now I'm like, I'm kind of scared, like as a woman, to go. And also like just some of the accommodations, they have like tents and stuff instead of,
it is the Fire Festival of World Cups.
Right, exactly. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I had a friend who was like, hey, would you want to go to the like final? And I was like, I don't know. And that's the first time I've ever in my life thought I don't know about a World Cup, because like, yeah, it's cool to be there, but to like, I don't know, like, is it okay? But I've also, like, a lot of the people who are there who are kind of in my circle have said great things about it. It seems to be okay. But I think it's also different if you're media, versus if you're like the regular person. And they were saying that the tents were so like the average viewer could go and not have to worry about these like crazy expensive hotels. But it's like, then you need to tell them they're camping out.
Basically.
Like you need to tell them that there's no restroom or anything in there.
See, I hate camping, so I'll for sure not go.
Yeah.
So,
dude,
like, I'm down.
I think every day that this tournament goes by, of course, the football is going to be amazing and it's going to be captivating and what we know a World Cup to be. But on the flip side, there's going to be more and more exposing of conditions that are there, because from everything that I've heard and I've read about is like this tournament, like especially when it comes to like accommodations and organization and scheduling, is a shit show. Yeah. Like it keeps changing day by day. Like every day you find out something new that you didn't know before. That is an organizational shift.
Right.
Just the simple fact that they had 12 years to prepare for this tournament, and the starting day got moved a day, like to the 20th instead of the 21st, just to accommodate what the Emir of Qatar wanted. He wanted his Qatar to start the tournament He wanted a big fireworks show. He didn't want the fireworks show to be in the morning because, you know, that'll mess up a lot of people's morning routines.
like with that, I know from what I've seen, just heard on, you know, like ESPN Deportes, is like PSG players struggle. I mean, they have the money, they can, I mean, that's not a real struggle, but the treatment of players from the Qatar, like, you know, from the Qatar, the owners, it's just, it's, you know, they don't like playing there because they get treated pretty bad, because these guys are used to a little more a gray area, like laid back, you know what, fine, go ahead. Right here, they're like to the T. And I don't know if that causes also conflicts, you know, to whatever, like Champions League, you know, they can win it based on those conditions, or, but at the end of the day, like, this is their job, and they know, like, that's what they play for. But also, I mean, media, like, there's a lot of people in media that even after they get their credentials scanned, they still have to go through, like, make sure and show them, like, who they are. So they have to show verification through, like, all this, you know, things. And it sucks because at one point do we say, okay, we know you're strict, but also there's this word, hopefully I'm saying it right. You can be strict, but also can you be intransigent or and uncompromising, where you, at the end of the day, like, you want to sell Qatar to the world, right? So at one point, can you be strict and keep your you know, your way of, like, your lifestyle the way you are, but you also have to understand, and there's this big tournament that's going on that brings so many different cultures. Yes, like every World Cup has it, where we go to, you know, Russia, Brazil, we go to the place and, you know, it's respected, but also part of that is just bring your culture there for just a month. You know, at one point, are they going to finally compromise and be able to, you know what, allow some stuff? The selling of alcohol, for example, human rights, letting people love whoever they want to love. Like, at one point, can we see that change? Because from what they were saying, like how it is right now, it's just super strict. Like, they don't have any gray areas. It's either like black or white.
As someone who studied international business, I took this class in international management, and we studied this model called the Hofstede model. And every single nation has, you know, there are these 5 different indicators that, you know, if you're someone trying to do business there or work with the culture, you know, you look at where they rank on the Hofstede model, and you can kind of understand, like, what your experience might be with them, right? You don't know unless you're there and obviously you live through it. But, like, these are all from, like, people who have specialized in it. They all have come together and created this thing. So when you look at a country like Qatar, there's this one indicator called power distance, and that is the amount of power the average person is willing to follow, right? And in Qatar, clearly, like, just it being a very religious nation, and you know, it's kind of landlocked. Like, there's a lot of different things that go into what creates a culture. That's why there can be, like, 2 countries next to each other, but they're still a little different because they have a different history or whatever. And with Qatar, you look at it and they have really, really high levels of power distance, and that's something that's a norm to them. And so when they bring all these other countries in, they might have agreed to it at first, right? But, like, once you're in their house, it's different, right? Oh, yeah, come over, bring whatever you want, no big deal. But then you get in there and you're like, actually, take your shoes off. Actually, don't touch that. Actually, I'm going to need you to please stop, you know? And so, like, it might just be different, you know, now. But I'm not saying any of this is right, but it's just, I feel like this could be an entire case study, right, of all of these cultures going into this really strict culture, right? You know, also very different than what a lot of the world subscribes to. You know, like, they also have a very masculine environment. Without having to do a full-on class about this, but you should just check it out. It's called the Hofstede model. It's really cool. And just see where they kind of land on that. There's power distance, individualism, femininity, masculinity, and I don't remember the other 2. But, like, for example, the United States would have a really high individualistic rating, whereas Qatar would be a low individualistic. They're more collective, right? And that's why they, like, listen to, and you also saw this play out in the pandemic, how every country reacted, like, either, like, shutting themselves down or not for the sake of others. You know, you see this play out all the time. And so I would just love to see, maybe that's what I'll do for my social media, is like create the little Hofstede model for every single country that's going to be there and how they might react in this situation.
That's a cool concept. And, every country is reacting in their own way. I know England, Harry Kane is going to wear the rainbow armband, and there's other ways that are getting countries that are voicing their opinion and their stance on certain things. For example, the country of Denmark with their uniforms, the Hummels brand, they actually have a really interesting all black kit, completely blacked out. On no piece of the kit does it have the word or the emblem of Denmark. Same thing with their home kit, the red one. The badge is actually just a red in the shape of a badge. I know Iran is actually going through their own struggles, their own protests in regards to women's rights. I know that a 22-year-old Kurdish woman died in the custody of the moral police in Iran. In Iran, and it's kind of divided the locker room. Some players are deciding to take a stance by covering their badge during certain games, or maybe even not singing their national anthem. And I think I read that there was, before they left to Qatar to get ready for the World Cup, they had a meeting with their nation's leaders, and I think some of them had to either agree or sign some type of thing that said that they were going to sing their national anthem. So it's like getting kind of ugly. It's getting kind of ugly there. I mean,
that's where, like, in those situations where your life becomes at stake too. And so, like, you have all of these like progressive nations who are used to having freedom of speech and the ability to, you know, maybe you say something that people don't like, but they're not going to kill you for it. But then you have these other nations where that does happen. You know, and that's what's so scary. It is scary.
You realize the privilege we have here with our freedom of speech when you see situations like this where we're bringing different cultures, different nations together, and everybody's living in the same environment, well, in that moment in time, but have different situations in their home countries.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we have is, at the end of the day, like, this nation is not perfect, but it's, at least you can express yourself.
Right.
Now, that comes with a responsibility. You know, having a mic has a responsibility. You know, freedom of speech it's a responsibility. It's a gift that we get, you know, other people don't have. Like, and for example, over here, we're trying to discuss earlier about the roster, who can make it, who cannot make it, whether we like the coach or not. Simple things that won't affect you and I at the end of the day. Over there is different. Over there, you know, there can be some repercussions for not singing the national anthem in Iran or Qatar. You know, what are the Qatar? I mean, they might be used to it. That's how their lifestyle is, and they're okay with that. But it's like, for me, it's just, you know, they could have, you know, like you said earlier, you can't just welcome someone and let them be. Like, when you welcome someone to their space, you have to let them be.
Yeah.
And if you don't let people be, that is a cause for rebellion.
Right.
Like, I just don't, like, the last thing I hope is just dramatic incident occurs because of, you know, some people just rather rebel and you know, like, go to town and, you know, get drunk, like, because of, like, for example, one thing, like, I'm thinking is one person decides to sneak in alcohol, which I heard a couple of Mexicans already did, like, and they get drunk, they get, you know, something happens to them. How much revolt is this World Cup going to cost worldwide, or Qatar, are you going to care for it? You know?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of repercussions that happen because of situations. But I know one coach or one manager that's rebelled is Louis van Gaal of the Netherlands. He's been very vocal about the World Cup being held in Qatar. He's been very vocal that he thinks it's a stupid thing. There's no reason the World Cup should have been in Qatar, and he's saying this stuff while he's in Qatar, you know, and it hasn't been taken very well by the authorities there. And if you look at Louis van Gaal right now, man, he's had a long career, but he's actually going through prostate cancer. Okay. So this is his last dance.
He's like, you know, zero FX.
Yeah, we talk about...
he's going to say it all, man.
We talk about Lewandowski, Messi, Ronaldo, these guys are having their last dance at the World Cup, but this guy is literally having his last dance of his life.
Yeah.
And his locker room has really kind of bonded around him. And they're actually in the group with Qatar. So they're going to have a matchup against each other. So I think that one's going to be a real special one because of all the background, the drama. So it's like all this stuff that I like about the World Cup too. But I feel like this one in particular has like an additional level of geopolitics and just activism and things where people, unfortunately, players have the burden now of either saying something or not saying something, and only history will be able, or only the future and looking back at history will they be able to judge if you know, they did the right thing or not. And I think what's the name of I'm blanking on her name of the U.S. women's squad, Megan Rapinoe. She's been very vocal about how she's displayed activism in her role as a player for the women's squad, and she kind of gave some advice to players, like the worst feeling that you can have as an individual is if you look back and you realize that you didn't say anything.
Yeah, you know, that's what I talk to a lot of people about, like, especially, again, we're getting political, but, you know, the whole
we're political here, so we're good.
The whole BLM thing, people, like, Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, and, like, not understanding that. And the way I always phrase it was like, look, if you look back at the 60s, right, when everything, 50s, 60s, where that was really bad times with racism, and you look, there's a group of people that look back and be like, oh, that was racist and that was bad, but then they'll say things now, and I'm like, but that's still racist and that's still bad, you know? And the thing is, time is going to pass, and you're going to look back and you're going to see what group you were in, you know? And so the people who don't understand that, that's how I explain it to them. Like, think about your future self and what you look back. You know, if you can't rationalize it from just like a logical, like empathetic perspective, then think of it that way. Like, put it in perspective for yourself. Like, what was normalized 60 years ago, what do you think is going to not be normalized in 60 years? You know, some people have to have it explained to them like that because they just can't see it any other way, right? But yeah, no, I think about that, and, you know, but like, with these teams like Iran, where their life could be on the line, that's where I begin to give a bit of a pass, because I'm like, that's a different ball game, man. It's one thing if you're from the U.S. or England or Netherlands, where like it's almost half expected. Yeah, say what you want to say, but even then, they're in Qatar. You know, like these are a bunch of countries coming here, stirring the pot, right? Imagine someone's like, oh, come to my house for dinner. And you're like, okay. And then you get there and you're like, but that's a shit show, and that's gross, and that's nasty. And you're just constantly like, well, why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? And like, I don't get, you know, like you're that guest who is constantly like, rah, rah, rah. And, you know, like, whereas it's like, can we help with this? Can we help with that? Can we do this differently? What's a better solution? But instead it's all been like, rah, 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 and like, brattiness, you know. And I'm not saying that it's wrong either, because I think it's okay to be outraged when you see, when you find statistics like thousands of people dying or whatever. But also it's important that, you know, if you're going to bring up a problem, maybe bring up a solution also, right? But also, what can you do in a government like that that's really strict and black and white? So it's kind of a catch-22. And so it's like, all right, so we're in this situation that nothing's going to change no matter what you say, so why are you still saying something, you know? And it's like, is this safe for your team now at this point? So there's a lot to think about, you know. And again, there's a lot of progressive countries who are used to having their personal expression and whatnot, but that's not the case here. And so I'm just glad I'm not a player, honestly, and I'm glad I'm not a coach, and I'm glad I'm not having to represent a country in this situation.
No, seriously. And a great interview that I saw was with Jurgen Klopp, where he had a very candid conversation with the media, where he kind of turned the mirror on the media and said, like, where were you guys when this was announced? Why y'all didn't do enough? Y'all didn't write enough stories.
Why does it just come out now?
Y'all didn't make enough big enough deal about it, and now we, the players and coaches, have to have this additional extra pressure and burden of having to have a stance, having to give an opinion, having to do this. And his whole thing was saying that it was just unfair for his players, and he was doing. He's a complete coach. Like he was doing what he knows is best to protect his guys and help them in any way he can. But it was an interesting thing to think about. Like I don't fully agree with it. I don't fully like. I'm not saying he's right or wrong, but it was an interesting question.
Yeah. It's there is no right answer, and I think that's something that the media is good at doing, is polarizing people and also making it seem like, okay, this is an obvious no. Well, yeah. But then what's the obvious answer? There isn't one, is there? Because this is a country whose culture has been set in stone for ages, So that's just the thing about it is like, what do you do if you come up against somebody who's black and white? You don't fuel fire with fire. There's this, like, I can't remember, like, there's this saying that I always used to use in yoga, like, talking about like, it's an MLK quote where like darkness, what is it? Damn, I'm butchering this. Darkness doesn't eliminate darkness, only light can do that. So if it's dark and things are bad, then yes, like, where can you light the path? Where can you maybe help these nations to understand like what they did wrong and what should be done better? And like, but again, there's also like so much of this goes so deep, like caste systems. And everything. And then you can also even shed the light on the United States. We have an issue with migrant workers, like not paying them and like,
Wage
trying
theft.
to deport people and putting them in camps and, like all kinds of things, right? Like that, that's what I'm trying to say. Is like,
the house isn't fully in order here.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of people pointing fingers.
No, yeah, definitely you have to, you can be vocal about something, but you also have to be introspective and honest with yourself.
Look at yourself and be like, how fucked up you are too,
Yeah.
Is
like,
your house in order?
Yeah, like say,
yeah,
like one thing, like say we you're talking about like club, whenever saying like you were thinking like, how come you didn't do that whenever you found out about that until like now, whenever it's about to start.
Right.
Like our house, for example, I mean, like DACA is a huge example of something you get to pass. It's already there. You just need to pass it. Like you already know who is here. You already know who they are. Just pass it, because you're going to get another, term where something like you don't do anything with immigration. You're going to come back and promise, and people are going to be like, like, why would I trust them? They didn't do anything. So I think any action should be taken serious, because we're going to keep, like, these generations are going to keep wanting more and more and more fight for civil rights. You're seeing that with young people. So the best way to start it is, like actually paying attention to really what's going on. And you can't fix it all at once. But when you have some solutions, like you said, that changes everything.
Right. And I'm sure just having this influence there in their country might prompt people to ask questions. And maybe that's what comes of this. It's like people just starting to question their system that they grew up in and that they know. I don't know.
No, definitely. I hope what does come through this World Cup is just a lesson for FIFA, honestly, to be more transparent and know that the decisions that they make, whether through corrupt means or not, they have consequences, and it's gonna hurt their pockets. That's the only way that these types of organizations and bodies, governing bodies, learn anything, is if it hurts their pockets, if it hurts their margin.
Yeah, you're right.
Hopefully that they learn a lesson. Like the World Cup shouldn't have been held in a place like this during a time like this. And there was a bunch of signs, but obviously just learning from this experience and moving forward. I hope that we can, as consumers of sports, we can also learn to enjoy something, but also think about it critically, not necessarily just consume it and promote Qatar or Russia or these types of nations as like great places where everything's fine, because we know that that's not the truth.
It's not. Yeah.
Right. I think that's across the board for sports. A lot of people use it as an escape. They don't want to hear about politics. Right. That's what you hear from NFL people all the time.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, guess what? football isn't your therapist. Maybe you should go get a therapist.
Oh, damn.
And maybe you should just realize things are happening in the world, and this is what's happening now.
Yeah, paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, this is a good segue to the reflection, because we're going to the holidays. And, I mean, being thankful for everything that we do. If we want to take it back, like, to your instructor, and I think you just gave us a little glimpse of, you know, as a young instructor, how much, like, learning people will get from your practices. What is something you took from your own practice to your everyday life that helped you? You know what? Maybe not everything's perfect, but at least I know, like, there's something good in here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are so many tools that you learn in yoga. Like, I always encourage people to go get a yoga certification if you can afford it, or if you can find a program that is affordable, right? Because it's the tools that they give you, the coping mechanisms that are a lot healthier than what most people grow up with. I think that for me is the bigger thing. Like, I got hooked on yoga because of the mental part of it. Like, I went there as an athlete and I came out as someone who was a little more self-aware. And the best part about yoga is it humbles you regularly. You know, you take too much time off, you know it. Or if you're doing great and you want to keep going harder, your body will put you in check. You know, like, it's just, and the competition is always with yourself. It's not with anybody else. And so you begin to become a little more introspective. And when you do a consistent practice, you begin to realize when things outside of you aren't well, you know, like life can be going great that day or it can be going bad. And because I'm getting on my mat consistently, you know, I could have had a bad day, but I'm good. Or I could have had all these good days, but I'm bad, right? On the, like, mentally. And so I think all it does is just helps you to bring awareness to your emotions. And that's the first step, bringing awareness, so that when you get into these heated moments or into these patterns, you can identify them and you can work through them in a slightly healthier way. And that doesn't mean, oh, go get on a treadmill and sip kombucha and do your yoga. I'm talking about, like, when you're in a heated moment, right, with somebody and you want to, like, just yell at them and rip their head off. Instead, you can take a breath. Or when you're imploding because you're about to have to talk about something that you didn't prep for and it's going to be live streamed and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But you're not. You know, it's like all those little moments, like just learning to settle the panic, to kind of take a beat. And then to realize, like, even if the shit does hit the fan, your mat's still going to be there and you can get to your mat and you can work through it and you can move a lot of these emotions you're storing through your body. And so, yeah, like I said, I could go on, but, you know, it a lot of people see yoga as this, like, physical practice, but it is deeply spiritual and actually a religion in India. And it's just been really westernized. And so whenever I started, my first thing was like, is this a religion or a philosophy or a fitness class? And he was like, it's a little of both, but mostly philosophy and spirituality. So I was like, sign me up because I'm here to do some deep work. And because I need it, man. And it's been rough, right? So, yeah. And then, you know, I think, too, like, there's a lot of these yogis out here who see themselves as enlightened and, like, oh, like, they feel very God or goddess-like. And I think going through that process where, you know, you work and work and work and you try to be this best version of yourself. I think the real kind of enlightenment is accepting yourself as you are, but knowing that you have some work that can always be done, but not trying to become this perfect godlike version. And I still see a lot of that in yoga, which is a little bit of why I began to distance myself, because it felt kind of yucky and inauthentic. But of course, I love the practice and what it does for me. I met a lot of great people, and there's still a lot of really good people in the practice. But I feel like for me, it needs to come at the right place at the right time and in certain doses. But really and truly, it's like the meditative parts I can do on my own, you know. And I also studied a lot of Buddhist meditation. And there's this one meditation that is my favorite, and it's called Changing Suffering. So in Buddhism, anything outside of yourself that you need to feel better is suffering, right? So say say you love shopping and you're like, oh man, I got to have the nicest purse because it's going to make me feel better and it's going to make me feel like a little more on trend. I'm going to need this jacket because I'm going to be on this, camera on this show and I got to look the part and da-da-da. And then time goes by and you're like, I don't feel that much better than before I bought it. And that's, you go to it to make yourself feel a certain thing, but it changes into suffering because now you're broke. Now, you can apply that to food. You can apply that to addiction, alcohol, toxic relationships. That's helped me leave a lot of toxic relationships, things like that. So, you learn these little tools that you can apply to life. So I don't know. It just helps you to relate better to people. I think that was a really long explanation.
No, that's good. Because what like how you earlier you said about when you go to someone's house and even you don't agree with it, like you were saying you can be complaining about this, complaining about that, but it can also be like, you know what, how can I help?
Right.
Like that literally
Yeah. I mean, have you ever been to a friend's house and their apartment's a shit show and you're like, girlfriend, I think I just saw a roach. But you're not going to rub their face in it. You're going to be like, why don't we have some wine and start cleaning a little bit? Or,
talk
let's
about your
turn on
day,
our favorite movie or come talk to me. What's happening?
Yeah.
And I know it's not a fix like that in Qatar, but I do think people could be better at talking about, helping people to see what they could do better. When has it ever worked when somebody did something wrong and you just chastise them for it? Think of a little kid, think of your boyfriend or girlfriend messes up and you're just hammering, no, it doesn't work when you do that. It's hey, I got to see some actionable change and things happening. I'm disappointed because of XYZ. This is how we got to fix it. Otherwise, cut the relationship. Because right now it's just people complaining and to people who don't give a flying fuck, most likely, because of the way that you're sharing the information with them. I don't know if you've ever been to or heard of Burning Man. It's a big EDM festival, for hardcore EDM people.
Out in the desert.
Yeah, out in the desert. Kind of crazy, but whatever. A lot of people do it. Well, they had this really cool art installation. I've never been, but I saw that they had this cool art installation, and it was a wire outline of two people sitting down like this, but back to back. So you see two people sitting back to back, but inside there are these two little kids trying to touch each other. So it's we all have this inner child that just wants to connect and be heard and be seen. And all the things we grow into outside of that become because of our influences that we've experienced in the world, right? And in one way, you can make a pass for a lot of people with that kind of thing. But on the flip side, you can say, hey, we can try to connect and try to be better and try to find a solution. And if it doesn't work, that's it. It's not my job to take care of other people, right? And I know I'm going deep over here. But what I'm trying to say is even nation to nation, we are all collective beings. We are all pack mentality animals because that's how we have survived for millennia. So it's in our ingrained in our DNA. So when you think about stuff like that, next time you go in a fight with anybody, literally just imagine them as a little kid, and you're like, oh, right. You're throwing a fucking tantrum, aren't you?
Yeah. We all want to be seen.
Yeah.
We all want attention.
Right.
We all want to be loved.
Right.
Yeah. There's basic human needs,
yeah.
but that get covered with all these negative and kind of toxic reactions.
Yeah. And that's a big part of just you keeping your even keel nature can kind of have an effect sometimes. And if it doesn't, then those people don't need to be in your orbit. That's it. But
damn, Katie.
Yeah.
She is dropping some stuff right here.
Damn. I love this TED Talk.
I know.
It was good.
I'm literally going to send this to my professor and be
I know.
This has to count for 3 essays.
There we go.
Come on.
There we go.
Happy to help.
Yeah.
I'll give you the video tomorrow. Right now, I'll drop it on.
We're just going to make the transcript and you can just copy paste.
Yeah, there we go. Basically.
This is going to be a long episode.
That's fine. They'll like it.
We had some good things.
That's good.
No,
That's
definitely.
good.
We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing episode of Otra, por favor. You really gave us a lot to chew on, a lot of good insight to life in the media, life in sports, analysts, journalism. We really admire
It's like
everything.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Like just
Thank
so
you.
versatile. Like
Yeah.
so, you know.
Jack of all trades.
There we go.
Yeah,
For sure,
Been
for
doing
sure.
a lot, but thank
And
you.
we appreciate your honesty, your candidness, and your willingness to give us some time and sharing your story.
Yeah, well, thanks for
Appreciate
asking.
it,
Like I
appreciate
said, it's kind of cool to have people asking about it, you know, and
Yeah,
always happy
Always.
to share.
The door is always open here at Otra, por favor. And that goes for anybody that has a special story or a special passion that they want to share.
Just
Katie?
fill out that form and that link that we were about to, you know, that we share. And it doesn't have to be
Share
about the World
it.
Cup. It can just be about your life.
Yeah.
We got you.
Cool.
But
Definitely thanks to everybody out there that listens to Otra, por favor. We appreciate your support, and we hope you continue to follow us. We're going to bring more and more episodes, especially as this World Cup comes along. Please follow us on all of our platforms, Otra X Favor, at Instagram, at Twitter. Well, it's still last because, you know, Twitter's going through some shit right now.
Che, Elon
Armageddon.
Musk.
These are our Twitter
that's-
Armageddon plans.
Yeah, this is
There
Twitter
we go.
Armageddon
Through
plans.
it
It
until
starts here.
running, yeah.
But yeah, this has been a great episode. I'm excited.
Se cuidan, se portan bien. Adiós y arriba el América.
A huevo.
Hey.